Hello, welcome and good evening to you ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's right, we are back. The UKSimRacing Community Porsche Cup Season 9 returns from its second mid-season break, and tonight we go rampantly roaring back into the racing action with round 10 of 13 here in Germany. For we are at the one and only Nürburgring Combined circuit, or the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke, and as the circuit gets ready to play host to our drivers, goodness me, we have got a tenacious challenge on the hands of our drivers today. Spanning the best part of 16.12 miles with over 170 corners, many of whom will be known as household names across the European continent, if not the entire globe. This is a circuit which will be putting our drivers to the ultimate test when it comes to their ability to dial in their machines for the perfect handling experience over the course of an entire lap, but also our drivers' abilities from lights out to checkered flag. We're just surviving one lap around this circuit seen as an achievement, so it's going to be just as much a question of who's going to be able to keep it on circuit as it will be who's the fastest out there. Even the tiniest mistakes proving absolutely fatal to winning aspirations when it comes to running on the infamous Green Hell or the Nordschleife loop, where overtaking is limited to a very limited number of corners, and also the infamous long back straight known as the Döttinger Höhe, and most of the overtaking we can expect to see on the Grand Prix loop. But as we get ready to go racing today, we welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, brought to you on the official UKSimRacing media platform to your viewing pleasure. Indeed, firstly, you could be tuning in right now on YouTube at youtube.com, search for UKSimRacing or UKSR, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Alternatively, if you're more Twitch inclined, you could be tuning in right now via twitch.tv/UKSimRacing, and welcome to you guys and girls on Twitch. But regardless of which media platform you're tuning in via, all your commentary for this round, indeed the entirety of the season, will be brought to you by myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we're bringing you all your racing action tonight. Indeed, what a night of racing we've got ahead of ourselves, and well, let's give you a quick recap of the championship calendar so far and what we still got lying in wait. As we can see, we're now down into our final third of the season. We've stormed away through 2/3 of the championship calendar, 4 rounds remain, and we begin what is our last 4 rounds today with the infamous Nürburgring Combined. But prior to all this, we started off with round number 1. It seems like it's been eons ago since the 21st of December 2023, but we opened up with an endurance race opener at Circuit Zandvoort, and in the recently refurbished Dutch circuit playing host to our drivers, and what a round of racing we got to see with the battles at the front of the field between Olympus Esports and Impulse Racing, keeping hearts absolutely fluttering. Then in rounds 2 and 3, we made our way to Spain for Motorland Aragon for our first sprint and feature combination pair of rounds of the season. And as our drivers went racing in Spain, it was just as much about battling under braking into the circuit's hairpins as it was about trying to keep the car on circuit, with many a driver experiencing some difficulty with power oversteer. And that was on the 28th of December, and then we made our way into 2024 with what was the 4th of January and the circuit to Spa Francorchamps lying in wait in Belgium. And rounds 4 and 5 saw the tempo increase and plenty of brilliant battling up and down the field before we made our way to the United States of America for the one and only Sebring International Raceway. And the 11th of January 2024, goodness me, did we see some absolutely ferocious battling, particularly in the freeway fight for the win between Thomas Cope, Daniel Sedgley, and also what was Philipp Hammer. And in the end, it would fall to Cope after the Olympus Esports drivers were going to go tooth and nail to the very end. But that was our second endurance race round, and after that, we had our first mid-season break in commemoration of what is the official iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona. And then we returned for round 7 and 8, and we made our way to Italy for the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. And on the 25th of January 2024, we got to see Sparks absolutely fly at the straights and chicane circuit, with many a driver falling foul of the chicanes, but not so for the likes of Kory Lazarus and also Emil Koopmans, who enjoyed some of the best of the battling there. And in last time out with round number 9, we made our way to United Kingdom. We jumped in the time machine as well and made our way back to 2008 for the legacy layout of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And on the 1st of February, we kicked off the second month of 2024 with a bang. And what brilliant racing we got to see there, and in particular at the front of the field, we got to see Kory Lazarus take a dramatic win and his first win of the season overall and in the gold class. With our second mid-season break now concluded, we now return to the racing today, and after the 15th of February and this round, we've got 2 weeks of racing remaining. Next week it's going to be rounds 11 and 12, our final heat and feature combination pair of rounds on the 22nd of February, and we make our way back to United Kingdom, albeit in the present for the final time this season for what will be the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Indeed, name a combination destination other than Porsche Cup and Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, which is going to keep the pulses absolutely racing with regards to how close our drivers will be racing to one another. I dare you. And then we'll be making our way down under to Australia, heading back to prior to 2010, because we're going to be reviving the Oran Park Raceway circuit on the 29th of February. It's a leap year and it's worth doing something special. And in round number 13, we're going to be bringing back the infamous Australian circuit and seeing our drivers roar their way around there. But come at the end of the racing at Oran Park, who will be our champions? Well, that's the big question. We're still waiting to find out. Now, speaking of championships, let's take a look back at where our championship stands after 9 rounds of racing. We're slightly revised format today, and this is courtesy of Philipp Hammer, one of our participants, as he's been able to provide an updated set of standings for us, and we really do appreciate it. And we started with the Gold Drivers' Championship standings here, and as we can see, Philipp Hammer leads the way after drop scores are accounted for by only 2 points over Daniel Sedgley of the Olympus Racing and Olympus Esports drivers, absolutely neck and neck. Meanwhile, it's Olympus Esports' Thomas Cope who sits at P3 after the difficulties the last time out at Silverstone. An unexpected difficulty in the pit lane caused him to lose out and what could have been a potential win, and indeed now holding on to P3 and looking to try and get himself back into the fight. But now he's got a long way to go, albeit a 0 drop score is in effect, so therefore the opportunity is there for Cope to try and bring himself back into the championship. Luke Andrews sits P4, Riku controls Reparto course on 139 points, and Lily really leading the rest of the best of the rest battle, we should say, as I stumble over my words there. But I can tell you one thing as well, it's been a stumbling season for Mario Velgut, the Impulse Racing driver, who took the first win of the season at Circuit Zandvoort all those weeks ago. But since then, the form has been inconsistent. It's been a difficult season for him, and therefore that's why he sits in P5 on 136 points, 3 behind Andrews. Matt Atton sits P6 for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Emil Koopmans, with the 2 drives separated by 2 points, and it's only a further 3 to Kory Lazarus of Blackout OPR, with then 103 points to Marcel Fritsch, 1 clear of Ryan Walker, who we won't see on the grid today, but hope to see back on the grid in a week's time. And the same applying for Kory Lazarus, I do believe, who's not going to be on the grid. But as we miss them, we don't miss the fact that Ryan Walker completes your top 10, with James Parker sitting P11 of the privateer on 92 points, 15 clear of Forsten Savet for Griffin Motorsport, and then Lee Holmes and Fabian Sitter complete your championship standings. And then come on to the silver class, and here the complexion is a little bit different. In the fact we have a runaway championship leader in the form of Racing Lab Esports' Matt Strand, who now stands what is the best part there, if my mathematics is correct, for 28 points ahead of Paul Halliday. In fact, I think it's a lot more points than that. In fact, it's 45 points. We do the mathematics correctly, and well, as he gets set and ready to go charging once again off into the distance, well, his target is going to be to try and run away from the rest of the field. And well, as he gets himself set up, Stephen Hobbs sitting a further point behind there. It's going to be the fight for P2 between Halliday and Hobbs, and the Fusion Racing driver chasing after no pointers driver, and Hobbs has really come alive. But there's just one challenge, and that is Hobbs is not going to be on the grid today. Unfortunately, he's not feeling too well, and we do wish him all the best if he is tuning in. Steve, we do miss you on the grid, and we hope to see you back in a week's time at Brands Hatch, for the simple reason we want to see you take that battle to P2 versus Mr. Halliday. But still, the no pointers driver, if he can find his form, he may yet have a last gasp at chasing down Strand. But that's how your top 3 stands, and it is a sizable, what is there, 45 points to have Alistair Hatcher and Craig Shield, the 8 Racing Sign teammates, equal on points, but Hatcher ahead of Shield based on result countback. Joe Dutton sits P6 for the wrong stuff, ahead of Sean Dowie, both on 127 points. Will Click Switch with 88 Racing drive, still looking to bring on home was his first ever silver win, and hounding and hustling after it as much as he can. Ahead of Glenn Humberstone, Guy Kyleout and Wayne Basson, who complete your top 10. From Basson, it's then Daniel Weston, P11 for Project 88, ahead of Owen Halliday by a single point, with an old pointers driver gradually finding his form and the pace is improving. Then Jason Mumford, Cameron Smith and Adam Greaves complete your top 15, with the Fusion Racing drive being followed up by Matty Wild, who's his P16, and last but not least for DCW Racing. We then come to the Teams Championship standings, and here we can see it is what is 20 points that separates our top 2. Olympus Esports leading ahead of Impulse Racing, but then again we've seen the momentum swing back and forth between these 2 teams all season long. Luke Andrews meanwhile sits in P3 for Q Control of Reparto course, his single team there, indeed the single driver ahead of Blackout OPR, with a 5-point advantage over Satellite Racing completing your top 5, and it's Racing Lab Esports a further 6 points behind ahead of Effect Simulations, with 88 Racing and the Sim Racing Collective and Griffin Motorsport completing your top 10. Outside the top 10 is WS Racing Esports who are best of the rest P11, ahead of the Noel Pointers, with Fusion Racing, 88 Racing Sign and the Wrong Stuff completing your top 15. And it's Free to Sport, Clicks for 88 Racing at Project 88 and DCW Racing who complete your championship standings. But let's go from our standings into our circuit for today, and it is, of course, the circuit located near the town of Nürburgring in the district of Eifel in the state of Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany. It is the Nürburgring Combined, and we are going to be running the GP-Strecke long layout, which runs the full Grand Prix course and the full Nordschleife loop as well. It's the ultimate combination, and well, with a combination such as this, as we can see for the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to them for the brilliant simulator and the fantastic circuit maps that come with it. This is a circuit that you'll find very hard to beat when it comes to the challenge it offers. Indeed, a circuit which many flock to every year in order to watch motorsport and also take their own machines out on track days or hire cars, where it is a circuit which will see drivers push to the absolute limit. Indeed, it has quite a few nicknames, but the one that stands the most, of course, is the green helm in reference to the Nordschleife loop, as our drivers will make their way up, over and down the Eifel mountains, and with so many major corners such as the combination of Hudson-Bach, also Flugplatz, the sweeping right-hander, Arenberg, the challenging right-hander at the top of one of the ascension points. Also later on that you do have the infamous triple right-hander of Bergwerk, and as our drivers will charge away all the way up towards Mutkurve, the sweeping left-hander, which is all about being brave on the throttle. But don't forget the downhill run as well to complete lap, including what is Brünchen Corner, or YouTube Corner as it's known, given the number of crash compilations you can find on YouTube, albeit hopefully we're not going to be seeing any crashes today at that corner. The Stefan Beloff S, and also we do have the long Döttinger Höhe back straight, where drivers go all the way to the end of the lap and do it all over again. But don't forget the GP loop as well, with many a great corners such as the Yokohama S, the Bilstein curve, and also the Michael Schumacher chicane, or the Michael Schumacher S, which is going to see our drivers push it to the absolute limit because track position will be so critical here. And this is going to be the ultimate test of our drivers' abilities midway through the season. As for our rules for today, of course, we can't go racing without rules. Well, qualifying-wise, an open qualifying format shall be used, which is going to last 30 minutes. It's been extended by 10 minutes today in order to give our drivers ample opportunity to set at least what is free-flying laps, and drivers may not reset to the pits outside of the pit lane. Doing so shall end their qualifying session. Now, race-wise, the maximum pitted fuel load has been restricted to 30 litres, which I do believe is going to give our drivers the opportunity to do a couple of laps before they need to come into the pits. And there shall be a single 60-minute endurance race on the schedule for today. Indeed, the endurance race length has been increased from 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and with that, we're going to see a couple more laps. Now, the race shall commence via a standing start. This is the tradition of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, and there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in this endurance race. It means that our drivers choose when they come into pits, and they get to choose what exactly they do. We know they've got to pit for fuel, but if they decide to change tyres, it's entirely up to them. And if they manage to accrue 24 more instant points, a drive-through penalty shall await them, and that's going to be extremely punishing. And points are awarded in this round the same as it would be the combination of the traditional heat and feature points format. So there's no extra points or less points on offer today, just a lot of pride on the line as our drivers look to prove themselves as the ultimate ring maestros. But as we look back to our live pictures here, as practice is gradually coming to its conclusion, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time, UTC. And as we can see, in what will be approximately 2 minutes time, we'll be going into our qualifying session, 30 minutes in duration. All our drivers out of the circuit looking to give everything they can in order to put their cars on pole position with their respective classes. And after a 5-minute warm-up, we will be going racing. And indeed, get yourselves set, because our racing will be getting underway just after 8:30 this evening. 60 minutes of racing awaits us. And when you've got a pleasant temperature, ambient, and also track of 26 degrees centigrade and limited amount of cloud over the circuit right now, we couldn't ask for better conditions here for our drivers to get underway. But as we do look to a couple of drivers currently parked up, and I think most of our drivers right now opting to just take a bit of quiet time here, including Sean Dovey for Clicks for A-Tip Racing, just parked up there on what is, I do believe, the run out of Flugplatz. We also do have making his way on around there, and indeed just making his way on past right now, I believe that might be none other than the driver of Paul Halliday, as he makes his way all the way up to what is their Schroeder-Kreuz corner. And more than no point is driver knowing that he's got the pressure on today and he needs to come back strong if he wants to try and take the championship in the silver class versus Max Strand all the way to the final round. And well, we should correct ourselves from earlier when we did say it was 45 points. I do believe the mathematics were a little bit incorrect there, and in fact the delta is what is 48 points. We do apologise for that mathematical error in the fact that the gap is even greater for Strand. Indeed, Strand running away with proceedings at the front of the field. His consistency has absolutely been infallible. But as Halliday makes his way on through, we do say hello in the Twitch chat there to Connor DM Craven, and I hope you're doing well, Connor, who's cheering on what is Thomas Cope, and also Daniel Sedgley, the Olympus esports drivers. And well, as Halliday makes his way on down and up the rise there, going into left into right. And indeed, now making his way, I believe, into what is the braking zone here for the left-hander of Metzgertsfeld. And well, very challenging corner at that, right? And indeed, we're going to get a few on-board laps when we go into qualifying. We'll give you a full guided lap. And well, I think we might be riding on one of our gold drives for the purposes of that. But right now, for the purposes of going racing, the checker flag has come out of this final practice warm-up session. And you know what time it is? It's time for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. 30 minutes. Who is going to be on pole by the end of it? Let's find out. So as we head into the extended qualifying session, then all the drivers will immediately be looking to start to make their way out of the pits and maximise their time out of the circuit. As we see the Olympus Esports pair of Kory and Sedgley being the first two drivers out there in formation. I think it's less about the photo opportunity than it is with regards to getting their cars out there immediately and having the opportunity to try and give themselves a bit of track position and breathing room with it in order to set themselves up for success. Now, normally at the start of our qualifying session, we intend to announce the driver of the day from our previous rounds of racing. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't quite had an update as to our driver of the day from the Silverstone circuit, and as a result, we will announce that when it does become available. But in the meantime, of course, we will tell you a little bit later on today how you can vote for your driver of the day from, from what is this round. In fact, I've just had the information come in, and my apologies, literally on perfect timing. I have had the information come in, and we're interested enough for what is our driver of the day from the Silverstone Grand Prix 2008 circuit back in round number 9 2 weeks ago. It was a four-way tie between what was the drivers of Paul Halliday, firstly, who's currently not out on the circuit, unfortunately. We'll look to him very shortly. Also Thomas Cope, who we see here for Olympus Esports. We also had Marcel Fritsch, who picked up the driver of the day accolade, and Emil Koopmans. So four drivers all getting equal votes, and we've not quite had that so far in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup's history. But congratulations to Paul Halliday, Thomas Cope, Marcel Fritsch and Emil Koopmans for all sharing the spoils of the driver of the day from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit 2 weeks ago in round number 9. And as I say, when we go racing today, we'll be announcing how you can vote for your driver of the day for this round of racing, and we will announce that in what will be the qualifying session of our broadcast in a week's time at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But as our drivers start to make their way on up the hill and in towards the Village chicane, indeed taking their time, they've got a lot of time available to them, albeit it's not going to be worth too much in long-term succession. In fact, they're here with a lap being on average just under 10 minutes. We can imagine after the initial warm-up lap, our drivers are going to have the best part of free flying. That's when there's no mistakes, so they don't have to come back into the pits. The big question you may be asking right now is, what do you need to do in order to take pole position at the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke? Well, to put it in simple perspective, the first key thing, and it sounds absolutely obvious, but it's the truth bit, you need to keep the car on the track. Given the fact this circuit is so narrow, particularly when you go onto the Nordschleife loop, the majority of the loop, indeed it is only about 1.5 cars wide in reality, although you could fit 2 cars into the road surface. It's going to be very hard to take corners completely 2 wide from corner to corner. That's why the main thing is keep it on circuit, and that does mean for our drivers, they need to push hard, but at the same time they can't afford to push too hard, because you dip even one tyre off of the black stuff and onto the grass, you can end up in the wall very quickly, and it is a long journey home. And indeed, with the car being towed to the pits out, that you won't be allowed to take part in qualifying any further, and that adds a bit of a risk versus reward delicacy to this qualifying session. But once you've been able to do perhaps the simplest part, albeit the hardest part, then you've got to push hard. But it comes down to how the drivers have set their cars up for success. Given the fact there's a number of major straights around here, including what we're seeing the Kope essentially making the way on through right now, so heading to Schroeder and then down into the braking zone for Arenberg. And you're going to need some straight line speed in the car, particularly when you get onto the Döttinger Höhe, which is the long back straight. But you also need a car that you feel very comfortable with when it goes over elevation changes, also over bumps in the road, riding curbs, and also quick bi-direction changes, all of it in combination. There is no perfect way to set up the car to go racing around the Nürburgring. The way you've got to set it up is for your personal preference to feel absolutely comfortable and ready to run the car on the ragged edge of adhesion, as we do look here to Philipp Hammer as he makes his way on out of Arenberg corner, and we're on home soil. And the last time we saw Philipp Hammer race here, back in what was season 8, if my memory serves me correctly, it was victory for Hammer in the gold class, and he'll be looking to do that once again today as he makes his way on down and in towards Ardenau Force on the rise here through the compression, and as he heads into the Ardenau Force left complex. He'll be feeling as today he's got to wear the pride of the nation on his sleeve and do absolutely the utmost to fly the German flag high. But making his way on through there, a lot of drivers giving each other plenty of space, and well, we see Paul Halliday now making his way onto Nordschleife loop, and one of our drivers of the day from what was at the Silverstone circuit 2 weeks ago, and congratulations to him in the 175. he makes his way on through and around. We don't have Emil Koopmans here today. Indeed, we have a little bit of a limited grid, it must be said, at this Nürburgring circuit. Albeit you can imagine that a number of drivers will be using this round as their potential drop score. There is one drop score available this season, albeit it should be pointed out they cannot use the season finale as a drop score. That round is a mandatory scoring requirement, so if a driver doesn't turn up for that, they will score 0, and it will be added to their total alongside another drop score, and that's to encourage participation all the way through to the end of the season. But at the same time, having a drop score midway through the season does give our drivers the opportunity, if they need to miss a round or week of racing, we should say. As Paul Halliday makes his way on out of the flats and onwards he goes. Well, he's not choosing to miss this. No, sir, he's not. As meanwhile, Owen Halliday making his way on through there in the Rexy machine, indeed, running the livery in tribute of the infamous Rexy racing mobile that races in IMSA. And Woody heads on through the left into right here, making his way on up towards Berger, very gradually, I should say, for exiting the curve. Right now getting himself set towards the second half of the lap, and it is a very long lap round here, and stamina is going to be critical, and I do wonder whether we're going to be seeing some drivers opt to a couple of warm-up laps before going all in on a single lap. It'll be a huge gamble, or whether we will see our drivers just simply go for the immediate flying lap as soon as they complete the warm-up lap, because by the end of this open warm-up lap, or the out lap if you will, our drivers will definitely have got the heat into the tyres and the brakes. No question about that, and then it's going to be go forward. It's a full run of the circuit, but as Halliday makes his way up the rise, a long journey up towards Nürburgring and also Klosterol. Right now just taking it nice and smooth, albeit having to deal, I do believe, with Philipp Hammer there as the two exchange places, and Hammer decided to back off to a degree and letting Halliday go, and knowing he doesn't really want to be in the draft of another car. And speaking of draft, is there any way you want the tow around the circuit? Will definitely want it going down the Döttinger Höhe straight, but for the majority of the lap you don't want to be in the tow of another car around here for the simple reason the loss of front downforce on the car is absolutely compromising if it comes to a number of the corners around here. Indeed, it can lead to you going a little bit deeper into the corner. As soon as you go deep into one of these corners, you start to lose a huge amount of time, including at the carousel. You don't want to be going high, you want to be tucked in at that camber bank in. But as Halliday makes his way up towards a Boston at 147. Meanwhile, we do look to Marcel Fritsch as he makes his way on around here. One of our drivers of the day from Silverstone out of the 4. And it's good to see the WS Racing Esports driver out there giving it his all. The Austrian drivers, he makes his way up towards McCurve, and we look forward to seeing plenty from him in the gold class today. I think it's a long warm-up lap here, and all the drivers right now will know they've got to pace themselves. And stamina is going to be a big challenge here at this Nürburgring circuit, even in qualifying, for the simple reason you need to take your time and get yourself set up here, and you've got to be fully dialed in for an entire lap. And whilst it doesn't sound like much, over the course of the lap, even on the simulator, it is absolutely draining. To do one lap absolutely perfectly takes a huge amount of effort, and that's what our drivers will have been practicing for all week, indeed the last 2 weeks, if they haven't had a break, in the fact they'll just have been focusing on dialing in those laps and making sure that the mistakes never come, because you've got to be in the right mindset. As soon as you make one mistake around here, you've got to switch back on immediately. If you don't, it can lead to another mistake shortly after. But as we do look to your Silver Championship leader of Matt Strand as he makes his way through the right hand there of what was, I do believe, as we get an idea of our camera angle there, coming through at Callan Hard, and now making his way into drive at Rex, the triple right-hander will make his way on through it. And the last driver out in this qualifying session, interestingly enough, so opting to go out much later compared to everyone else, and perhaps just feeling as though he's just going to do the one lap and that's going to be it, or perhaps deciding to give himself plenty of breathing room at the cost of a lap. We'll have to wait to see if that works out for him, but I think feeling quite confident today is Norwegian driver. Indeed, that confidence continues to ride high. But meanwhile, we do look back to one of your gold drivers here, Thomas Cope, with Daniel Sedgley just in front, and meanwhile tucked behind him they do have one of their business, Daniel Weston, I do believe, in the Project 88 car, who's following them on down the Döttinger Höhe. And indeed, as they go, the Project 88 driver just following the two gold drivers there, I think trying to use them as a bit of a pace car and also a reference lap in front. We're about to go into our first flying lap of the Nürburgring circuit, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to be brought to you by none other than what we Thomas Cope as he rolls his way onto a flying lap. So he charges his way up towards the timeline. Here we go at 16.12 miles of qualifying lap about to commence. Flat out all the way then down towards the Yokohama S hairpin as he gets ready to break into the first corner of the GP loop, braking about 125 meters from corner apex all the way down the gears, the first gear. They have to fight with the steering wheel to a degree as he dips down through the hairpin and now into the Mercedes arena. Overlap turn to as much as possible and holding third gear at the apex. He powers out and feeds the throttle as he makes his way down towards turn number 3. A downhill braking zone, braking about 100 meters from corner apex, second gear, hugging the apex curve to pull the car around, keep the car to the left and swing it rightwards for turn 4. Now getting the throttle on here from the King of 5, and on towards turn 6 he goes. It's a good start to lap, and now Kory will be looking to break his way down into turn 6, using the escape road on the right hand side there to go down to 4th gear as his brake marker before bringing the car to the left and braking after turn at number 7. Second gear as he goes for late apex, now feeds the throttle back in up to 3rd as rapidly as possible, and down he goes towards the hairpin, heading down towards the Dunlop Carer, a turn at number 8 as he gets ready to head onto the race. Using the entry curve on the left hand side of his brake marker, braking about 130 meters from corner apex, taking a V-shaped approach there to the apex as well, going deep and pulling the car back in the second gear. Now making his way up towards the Schumacher S in honour of Michael Schumacher as he goes into left into right, lift to the throttle as he rides on the opening apex curve, and lets the car straight line its way towards the second. A nice run as he heads up towards turn number 10 and into what's known as the Bill Street curve. Onto the brakes and through at the left hander into 3rd gear, and now into the right hander at turn number 11. As he holds the throttle wheel, waiting for that apex to come, and as soon as he feels it, gets back on the throttle, biting in, and now flat out all the way up towards the Beadle chicane. Fast through the King of 13, he'll go and let the car gradually drift down before bringing it back over to the right hand side to open up the next braking zone. As he gets ready to go onto the brakes, it's going to be the latest possible braking with 50 meters forward just before he trail braking down to 3rd gear, sweeping between the 2 chicane apexes, and now in towards the final corner to take him onto the Nordschleife loop. Now the hard start begins, and he makes way into the braking zone for the Schmidt curve, using the pit lane exit and the Nordschleife loop in order to open up the corner. And it's going to be a flat out run all the way down towards Hatzenbank, through the double right first, as he heads in towards the next corner. Here about balancing the throttle in 5th gear before making his way into Hatzenbank complex and getting ready to trail brake it down from 5th all the way down to 3rd gear, riding the apex curve slightly down, settles the car, but he catches it in time. Now left into right into left here as the direction changes come hard and fast. He exits on through, holding 3rd gear as he exits now into the right, into left, which you'll see him making his way out of Hoheiken and on to the charge through Kudabakuhor. Now coming out of Hoheiken, then flat out all the way, heading up towards Flugplatz here, and you'll see that he gradually goes down then into a small elevation and into a further dip before charges way towards Flugplatz. Let's listen in. Holding the throttle in there as he makes his way into Flugplatz corner, a slight lift just as he makes his way to the apex to make sure the car doesn't go wide, but otherwise practically full commitment from go as he now charges his way flat out all the way through Cottonborn and up towards Troyden Kreuz, and as he heads up towards 6th gear, speeds down in excess of 168 miles an hour as he makes his way into the left hander, lift off the throttle, keeping nice and tight, but got to keep some throttle on to settle the rear of the car down, and braking immediately in a straight line down in towards Arenberg corner, down to 3rd gear as he exits out here. Absolutely precise so far as he now charges his way downhill through Fluxor and in towards the compression. Now here, this is where it's all going to be about the car sensitivity with regards to its ride height, to elevation changes and bumps in the road. He goes into the compression, and suddenly you're on a rise here into odd now force, left into right as he brings himself down the gearbox into 4th, trail braking still, into 3rd, he heads in towards the left-hander, down to 2nd, and now coming through the right-hander, completely odd now force complex, going on the speed, making sure not to ride the apex curve that's too high, no unsettle the car, and instead steering clear of it as he heads on towards what will be meant to get spelled. Now coming into a tricky left-hander, let's listen in. Slight lift of the throttle, but holds 5th gear, and now onto the brakes. He goes into the Callan-Hard complex, to the left into right, before going on to the next right hand of 3rd gear, as he lets the car go to left up to 4th, back down to 3rd, and as he makes his way through at the off-camber corner, feeding the throttle. He's got to be careful not to get too greedy with the throttle, and now in to the Spiegel curve, the left into right chicane that sets up the run into the drive front Rex, the triple right-hander. First apex, second apex, now feed the throttle in on the exit, the second flat out, he makes his way up towards Versailles from the hairpin that can destroy a race for a driver very quickly, down to 2nd, and as he makes his way for the tricky hairpin, now coming out, right in the mid of apex curve, there's the exit Versailles, and up towards the right side corner, the run over the bridge, as he heads in towards the left-hander, down from 5th into 3rd, and as he exits the corner now, making sure not to go too deep to set the run up towards Exmuller. Through the right he goes, bring the throttle in straight line, the steering as quickly as possible, given the fact there's a compression in the middle of the road, it unsettles the rear of the car otherwise, and as he powers his way now up towards what will be Bergberg corner, keep in mind through Louder Links he goes, the left-hand king, and now onto the brakes. Well, the first half of the lap is complete, now into the second half, going nice and late for the apex in, get the throttle back in, got to be careful not to touch the exit curve, it looks inviting, but it's only going to unsettle the rear of the car if you put the rear left tyre onto it, but he does no such thing as go, he now powers his way all the way up towards the mid-curve. This will be flat out on the charge here. Getting ready to go for the left-hander Kesselchen, and as he heads on and through, and now up he goes even further. With elevation continuing to rise, it will gradually start to hit what is maximum speed for around 155 miles an hour, perhaps 156, perhaps even 157. It's going to come close as he makes his way into the curve and lifts off the throttle, drops a gear, jumps the car in, full commitment there for Cope as he now heads into the right-hand king of what will be the run into the Steel Striker. Sixth gear there, no hesitance, keeping it full throttle. He heads onto the brakes. The Steel Striker corner coming all the way down to the second gear, hugging the apex curve as tiny as possible in order to make sure not to run deep and carry the speed out. And now heading in towards the carousel, and this is a corner of beauty. Braking at 100 meters from the corner down to second gear. It's almost like clockwork for Cope as he now powers his way out up through the gearbox once again. Running in towards Poston at 147. The blind apex left hand here as he makes his way through. And he's got to carry all the speed he can before going into left into right, which sees him making his way to pole act. And this is where he reaches the highest point of the circuit and the downhill descent begins. Now beginning to descend his way down from the Eifel Mountains, it's going to be a run into Hedwig's Hard first, which is a quick interchange of rights and lefts as he comes on through, balancing as much throttle as he can and dares to drink. Won't be using the brakes here, will simply be lifting and coasting when he needs to back the car off. And now onto the brakes to go in to the right hand, but holds fourth gear here over the rise, coming on down through Whipperman and in towards the left hand at the vice back corner. Dropping a third, bring the throttle back in up to what will be fourth. No, in fact he stays in third, then hits the limiter instead. And now coming in towards the Brunschen corner, on to the brakes he goes. Down from fourth to third, and keeping the car nicely pointed towards the exit as he heads in towards the left-hander eyes curve. Down from fourth to third, and holding that third gear, now going to power his way over the right-hand apex, the king. It unsettles the car, but it's the fastest line. And now flat out he goes all the way down for the Stefan Veloff S over the jump. And dropping a gear immediately on touchdown from fifth to fourth. Now feeding the throttle back in now. It's going to be full commitment here from Cope. And will not going to back off at all up to fifth gear. Charges his way on down into Blumback's fire as he roars his way on through the corner sequence up to fifth gear. Still flat out, building even more speed. And upwards of 158 miles an hour as he gets ready to go onto the brakes here for the sweeping right hand and proceeds to travel the Schwann's corner. Now onto the brakes down to third gear, keeping it nice and tight, not letting the car push down to the gravel trap. Onto the brakes for the flying carousel, dropping from fourth to third. Nice early braking zone there. Not wanting to get too greedy with the throttle when it exhales as he'll launch the car towards the exit barrier. And then he heads uphill into the right hand here, known as Galdenkopf corner, the corner where you've got to go nice and late into the corner because the apex is very high and real. The road surface dips way very nastily. Will Cope there flying out of Galdenkopf, and now he can finally relax. He charges his way down the back straight of Döttinger Höhe. That's most of the lap brought to you by Thomas Cope so far. You may be wondering at this point, why is he keeping the car over to the left-hand side here? Well, you'll notice the tree line on the left-hand side of the car, and with the idea being here that if there is a headwind, or wind that's blowing towards the front of the car, staying close to that tree line on the left-hand side actually shields the car from the wind, and that's where you get the maximum top speed when you're running around here in real life and also on the simulator, I do believe, as Cope makes his way onwards now towards the last few quarters, heading into the Tiergarten, the left into right, which sets up the braking zone all the way down the gearbox from sixth down to second as he heads in towards Nürburgring. And that's going to complete the run for Cope as he comes towards the timeline. It's been a sensational lap, and well, I don't think he can improve it too much, but Cope always looks to improve, but he sets the initial marker of what is going to be a 8:33.702, and now the question will be, can anybody get close to match that, as Daniel Sedgley immediately 3.2 seconds off on that 8:36.959 with half the qualifying session complete before these first laps come in. We've still got plenty more drivers to make their way towards the timeline, including Project 88's Daniel Weston, who in fact I think has had an invalidated lap due to track limits somewhere around there because he has not accrued a time on our timing tower. Luke Andrews meanwhile goes at P3 on 8:38.662 as he heads in towards turn at number one. Once again the Cube controls Reparto course driver. We've still got plenty more drivers yet to set their first laps and are just taking the time out there, including Fusion Races Adam Greaveson as he makes his way down through at Galdenkopf and onto the Döttinger Höhe straight. And he'll have the distant toe there of what will be a Philipp Hammer, who has backed off, I do believe, going onto the straights. I think getting himself set up for another lap. And Hammer will know he's not got many more opportunities here, as we do say hello in the Twitch chat to UKSimRacing's Chris Eddersford, the founder and the head admin of the community. Hope you're doing well, Chris. And well, as Greaveson makes his way on down this back straight right now, what is he going to be able to do for the first silver lap that he's going to put in today? Well, I think we've got a couple of silver drivers in front of him who are going to put the initial lap times on the board, including always Owen Halliday, as they all concertina in. That's Sean Dobie just behind as well. And the Clicks Race from A-Tech driver quite close towards the end of the lap to Halliday, and that may have cost him a little bit of time potentially at the end of the lap. We'll have to see. But Alessandro sets the initial at silver time as an 8:56.683. Although I think there might be a bit more out there. It's going to Humberstone 8:50.557. Sean Dobie a 9-minute 8.920. I think Dobie won't be too happy with that one. Meanwhile, Adam Greaveson improves the bar to an 8:48.886. So Greaveson, it would seem, has found a bit more time out there compared to his peers. Albeit there's still time to come, including Philipp Hammer, who's about to go on to what will be a new flying lap. This lap will not count, or if it does count, it's going to be a slow lap. It's going to be almost 10 minutes, and indeed he makes his way into the pit lane, and well, with that, I think that means for Hammer, it's going to be what is all about that final qualifying lap. He will have time. If he's quick with the pit stop, he'll have time to get out there, complete the warm-up lap, and then go one more time. He's going to be leaving it very late in the day, and well, that is going to be on a knife edge, and he's giving himself all the pressure right at the end of this session. But meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch of WS Racing Esports weaves and winds his way in towards home rain, and out he comes. What's he going to be able to do here to complete his first flying lap? Will it be enough to push him up there? It looks like it might be just over 9 minutes. And if so, this is going to put him down towards the back end of the field, but still he's got a lap on the board, and that's going to be more than what some have got so far. As he crosses the timeline, so 9:05.162, and for Marcel Fritsch will want a bit more time out there. He'd like to get a bit closer to his gold counterparts, particularly that top three, but still it's a lap which he can work from as he makes his way on to his next flying lap. And I think our drivers can get at least 2 flying laps out of the car, given the fuel load they're restricted to. As meanwhile, we do have Paul Halliday now making his way on through the last couple of corners. James Parker has just crossed the timeline, and he's set an 8:45.165, and that takes us to P4, puts him firmly away for the top 3, but firmly clear of the silver class. And well, as Halliday crosses the timeline, what's it going to be here for the no pointers driver? He needs a big lap, and well, nothing is registered. And I do believe there was a track limit invalidation of laps, so Halliday now has got 2 laps remaining to try and get this done if he's got the fuel tank for 2 more laps. Meanwhile, Matt Strand, the last driver to go out there from the pit lane into the warm-up lap. Well, right now the Racing Lab Esports driver, I think, feeling confident that things may be coming together for a good start to his qualifying session. He heads towards the timeline here. It's going to be just over an 8-minute 40 by the looks of things. Will it be enough to dethrone Adam Greaveson's 8:48.89 from silver pole position in P5 overall? Well, here comes Strand, and the time's going to be, it's an 8:42.249. It puts him P4 ahead of James Parker. Mine was the best part of 3 seconds there, so Strand getting it right out of the gate. And right now it's going to be pressure on Greaveson and Humberstone to try and find a response. We'll be keeping in mind those two are separated only by 1.7 seconds, and given the length of the lap, 1.7 seconds around here is the equivalent of about what is 3 to 4 attempts, and what would be another circuit of a much smaller set of dimensions, if that. But as we do see Strand now make his way out of the Mercedes arena, well, that's all of our first laps in from our drives. We've got Craig Shield in the pit lane, Guy Liao also not out on circuit. Daniel Weston, after putting in that 1 lap that was invalidated, I do believe, has decided not to go again. Owen Halliday into the pits as well. A lot of drivers opting to come on in, I believe, after some instance, including for Owen Halliday. And well, with that in mind, in fact, we can get a replay of what exactly happened to Owen Halliday, and here it is. It's making its way on down into the braking zone here for what was, I do believe, or in fact that was towards the starter lap as Sean Dobie followed him. Oh goodness me, in fact 3 drivers all following one another in quick succession, and I believe that happened at Hatzenbach Complex there. And well, it's going to be one of the situations whereby I think you get into a bit of a hypnotised state of mind, as Sean Dobie was following on through, and so was the 54 of Adam Greaveson. But all 3 drivers getting it wrong there, and where it only takes one to set off a chain reaction, it must be said, and that's why you can't let yourself focus too hard on the car in front, because they get it wrong. It's very easy to follow them into their mistake as well. But return to these live pictures, and we continue to see whereas Owen Halliday parked up there, so he won't be going again as far as we're aware. Well, right now Olympus Esports is going at 1 more time, and Cope still out there. Controversial pole sitter on that lap which we rode on board with was an 8:33.002, and Daniel Sedgley is 3.2 seconds behind on an 8:36.96 to the nearest 100. I think they're going to be feeling confident. This could be a prime opportunity today for them to make it a 1-2 and give themselves plenty more points on the board, and Cope will be looking for nothing short of perfection here in terms of getting every point he can, including the bonus points for the pole position and also the fastest lap. Will he be able to do so? That will be the question. Meanwhile, we of course do have the big quotient that needs to be resolved, and that is Philipp Hammer is out there at the moment on an out lap, but he will have one more lap after this. If he can get to the timeline before the clock strikes 30 minutes, as our drivers are entitled to finish the lap they're on, when we do see the checker flag come out for qualifying. There are overtime rules available to our drivers. This is not going to be an immediate shutdown session as soon as we hit the timer compared to qualifying in our heat and feature combination rounds, and therefore that means it could all come down to literally the closing seconds of qualifying as Hammer makes his way up towards what will be a Metzgerfeld shortly, going in to the long left-hander there. Right now getting himself set up and looking to make sure that whatever blighted him on his first out lap does not blight him again, or indeed his first flying lap we should say, and well, he'll know that everything's got to be done on that final lap of this session, as otherwise he'll be starting from towards the back of the field and will fight his way through unless he can make all the overtakes happen. The majority of them happen on the GP loop in the early stages of the race. He may find himself falling a long way off the leaders before the end of the first lap. As he heads on through towards what will be the second half of the Nordschleife loop shortly. I mean, we'll look to Alistair Hatch, the ATEC Racing Cyan driver, as he comes in towards what is there. The Strecke right-hander, and well, heading up towards the highest points of the circuit and getting ready to go in towards the carousel. And lovely third-person camera as you see him duck the car into the camber of the corner, keep himself nice and tight, balancing the throttle, and well, it's all about balancing out there. If you put in too little throttle, the car's going to drop away and fall onto the apex grass, but me, I'll put in too much throttle and you may just launch the car out of the carousel and on to the flat bit of time. I can potentially have a moment with the wall and find that fine line is what the mastery of this circuit is all about. And indeed, that could be said for the whole of the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke, in the fact there is an ultimate line out there, but it's finding it. That is the hardest part of it. And well, one person who did find the ultimate line out there sadly no longer with us. And indeed, the first corner of the Nordschleife loop being renamed in honour Sabine Schmidt, the legend of the Queen of the Nürburgring. And long may her memory be with us. Goodness me, because what a driver she was. But as we do see Alistair Hatch make his way on down, we look to Daniel Sedgley heading on the back straight here on the Döttinger Höhe. He's gone purple with a couple of the subsectors out there. Subsectors 9 and 12. Thomas Cope, meanwhile, has gone the fastest of everybody in subsector 13, albeit just been beaten by Sedgley. I think the draft having a big impact there as Cope releasing Sedgley to go through Tiergarten and into what is Hohenbrain to complete his lap and trying to get rid of the dirty air off of the front of his Esports teammate's car. So that way Sedgley has the best possible control to complete what will be for him. I suspect his final flying lap as Cope comes into the pits. Well, Sedgley heads across the timeline. Can he find a way to put it on pole, or will he get closer to Cope? He crossed the line, he halves the deficit down from 3.2 seconds to 1.8 seconds on an 8:35.546, but Cope's time of an 8:33.702 stands, and that will be his final time. He won't have time to put in another lap as Daniel Sedgley meanwhile parks up the car as well. Here comes Luke Andrews, currently P3. Can the Cube Controls Pato course driver find a bit more time out there? No, he cannot. He decides to come into the pit, so he will stay 5 seconds off of overall pole, but will he be able to hold on to P3 as Matt Strand makes his way around and up through at curve and charging his way onwards and upwards, still even further to Strecke to the right-hander. And once we do say hello to Mr. Livingston 23 there in the Twitch chat, teammate of Matt Strand, and well, how you doing, well, Simon Andre, and cheering on at Racing Lab Esports as we do see Strand making his way on through and then in towards the braking zone shortly for the carousel. And well, right now Strand looking strong here in this qualifying session, holding on to what will be silver pole position by 2 places over Adam Greason, but more importantly by almost 7 seconds is the delta right now. And I think Strand feels as though this is all coming together very nicely indeed. But meanwhile, it's coming together as well for Alistair Hatch, who makes his way down towards the end of the lap. He is on a significantly proven lap, and right now he could be finding himself getting a bit close to Glenn Humberstone, albeit as we look across the sector times, he's improved in what has been all over lap. There's only been a couple of somewhat minor subsectors where he's not improved. He's been able to match his previous best quite closely, in fact, where he's not improved as he heads towards the timeline. Well, for Hatcher, will he improve overall, or will he find himself staying where he is in P8? Well, he improves, and he does improve to P7 on an 850.281. That puts him just ahead of teammate Glenn Humberstone, who is now 3 tenths behind, but 3 tenths is absolutely marginal around here, it must be said. And well, as we do look to Marcel Fritz, he makes his way through Galtenkopf onto the Döttinger Höhe straight. One driver who's already there is Philipp Hammer. And Hammer making his way on through, still on an out lap here, but I think getting set and ready to go on to what will be the final flying lap of this qualifying session. Indeed, we might be able to bring a full on board of Philipp Hammer, or the majority lap on board, because he will be the only driver we believe who'll be on a final qualifying lap that's going to take us beyond the 30-minute mark of this session. As he gets ready to go from him, we do look back to what is James Parker, who are also on the back straight now. Indeed, Marcel Rich, also what is Philipp Hammer and Paul Halliday, all making their way onto it. Halliday, in fact, just coming out of what is the Kleiner carousel and into Galgenkopf he goes, and he heads into the right-hander and on through. Right now, he'll be hoping that this lap has been an improvement. He's been able to get it on the board for the simple reason he won't be wanting to start from the back. He'll want to be starting a lot closer to Strand in that championship fight. As he powers his way on down the back straight, we'll wait to see whether this lap will be valid. Meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch heads to the timeline here, and what's it going to be? He's currently P9. He crosses the line, and it's going to be an improvement by 7 seconds to an 8:57.950, but it's not enough to move him up from P9. James Parker stays P5 on an 8:42.525, and he'll be starting P5 at best. But meanwhile, as Hammer's already making his way around the GP loop on the final qualifying lap of his session, we wait to see what Paul Halliday can do here as he heads on through Tiergarten and into Hohenrain, and left into right he goes, and getting ready to go on to the brakes of the car, sliding itself gracefully between the apexes under the firm control of Halliday as he heads on towards the timeline. And no lap so far on the board, so he's got to get himself off the bottom spot of the grid. Is this going to be enough to do so? He crosses the timeline, and it's going to be... It's not going to be a valid lap, as we're to understand. So Paul Halliday does not get a lap on the board alongside what will be Guy Kyliau and Craig Shaw and Daniel Weston and Owen Halliday. So far, 5 silver drivers have not got a valid time on the board, and we do have one more driver out there looking to get a time on the board very shortly. As Matt Strand does improve off camera to an 8:40.821, I think cementing his pole sitter status in the silver class, P4 overall, which is absolutely brilliant performance from Strand. But right now, we have got one driver roaring his way on through. In fact, Glenn Humberstone is also out there on a lap, it should be pointed out. He's making his way on through what will be Poston 147 currently. But here is Philipp Hammer, who is a long way away from home in terms of bringing it back towards the timeline, but he's on home soil here in terms of the circuit. And right now, can the German driver find a way to snatch pole position or put himself on the front row amongst the Olympus Esports drivers of Thomas Cope and Daniel Sedgley? Well, they're going to be sitting in the pit lane right now and wondering just why the session's taking so long, and they'll realise it's Hammer is out there. But will it be Hammer time today for what is the number 60 driver, or will he find himself having to do it all in the race? Or as he starts to make his way on down towards what will be the Hatzenbach complex. Meanwhile, we do look to Glenn Humberstone as he winds his way on towards Brunchen Corner, and comes in towards the right hander and just smoothly on around. I think Humberstone on a cool-down lap. In fact, I think it has been a mistake-stricken lap, because given his lap time right now is registered as 12 minutes and still increasing, I think Humberstone here will be just bringing the car on home in due course. So there's going to be no further improvements from Humberstone. Will be starting P4 silver class, P8 overall in the end, but we'll come back to Hammer when he is the sole driver out there on a potentially valid fine lap. The only thing we can do is ride on board. The chance to way in towards Flugplatz here, and Hammer right now absolutely attacking that right-hander. Full grip available on the tyres here. It's going to be the lightest amount of fuel in the car, and Hammer knows he can't afford to not get this lap in. But of course, in order to take pole, he's got to give it everything. So it's risk versus reward as he heads upwards to 170 miles an hour, sweeping his way into the left-hander at Freudenkreuz, and now going from balance on the throttle to being hard on the brakes. Going through Arenberg corner up to third again, nice and early. Difference in approach there compared to Cope. You'll notice using the short shift to third in order to rotate the car around and have the confidence to push the throttle in immediately as he makes his way down towards the compression. As he heads upwards here, 166 miles an hour, and now on the rise he goes. Trail break his way into Aldenau-Force, coming down the gears, down to third already, very early in the run, down to third, down to second, and through left into right he goes. And we'll make sure to avoid that apex curve on the right hand that ends the corner complex. And now powering his way on towards Metzgertsfeld. And let's see if there's anything we can know in terms of not just drive lines, but also perhaps on the set level of the car. And I think one thing that is noticeable with Hammer's car right now is he's perhaps running slightly less rear wing, in the fact he has been able to be up slightly higher speed compared to Cope's lap. But again, it's by a mile an hour or two. That could come down just as much to the perfect corner exit as he heads in towards the right hander here of Callan Hard. Next out the corner, getting ready to go in towards the Spiegel curve, left into right here, and he'll be looking to absolutely straight line as much as he can without touching those apex curves through to dry flat regs, and the head on through the right hander, staying extremely close to that second apex, setting up the front, and we'll head in towards their side and down to second gear. Will he drop to first? No, he will not. He won't want to overcook the rear tyres in terms of making them spin more than he needs to. Third gear, there's he short shifts his way out of the hairpin and on towards right shine, and we're braking about 100 metres from corner apex down to third once again. Lets the car run a bit deep there in order to carry a bit more speed, but has to very quickly bring it back the X-Mueller corner, and we can see how to fight the steering was the car fights away from him, but just about keeping it pointed in a straight line as he now heads in towards what will be at the complex of Nürburgring, and will be a long right hand with extremely long braking zone going all the way down, waiting for it now, going full throttle as he exits. A bit of wheel spin there as he exits the corner, and also going to exit curve, but just about keeping it pointed in a straight line, and that's the flat out charge all the way up the hill he goes. And as he does so, we say hello to Simon Bamber, who says, Hammer, cue the qualifying strats, in reference to Hammer right now, leaving it to the very end of this qualifying session to get his lap in. We'll have to wait to see if it's a big frame play or not as he heads on towards what will be, curve very shortly, and well, going into the corner here at 156 miles an hour, dropping the gear down to 140 at the apex, and now powering his way on towards what will be at the steel Strecke corner through the right hand and sixth gear, full throttle there all the way through, and onto the brakes, braking what will be the best part of 175 metres from corner apex, given the speed he's been carrying uphill with him. And with the exits out now up towards the carousel, and with poetry in motion as he makes his way onto the brakes, going all the way down to second gear, roaring the car into the left-hander, and exiting out, spitting the car out of the corner as much and as early as he dares dream to do so. And well, now it's all going to be about the downhill run after the next 3 or 4 corners, and he heads to a positive 147, and with the left into right here, which is all going to be a confidence test. Fourth gear on through, and we're holding full on the rise, and using the entry curve there to race the car up and open the corner up into third, and now it becomes a downhill descent. It's been an absolutely smooth lap so far from Hammer, but you can tell now this is the hardest part, where all his energy has been expended so far. He's got to have something reserved. He winds his way on down through Henry sign in towards Whipham, and he goes, and will blind and non-sighted as he makes way over the rise, and now down into the left-hander through Iceback corner. Lovely run so far, and more from Hammer here. Fourth gear back down to third, very quick gear shift, and decides to go up to fourth there before back to third. That gear shift cost him some time, potentially it may help retard the car in long term in reality. And as he heads out of that junction and now into right curve through the left, and we'll see him go over that exit curve there, and indeed absolutely mount the right hander for his long run on down here, beginning the descent for the Stefan Beloff S, making the jump. Jumps over there, in fact breaking a little bit, lift off the throttle before he started the jump. A different line there from Hammer, and I think that might be just to try and get the car to settle down to a degree, as he's flat out now all the way through Blue-Black's line and heading onwards and down towards the lowest points of the circuit now before he gets that GP loop. It's still a long way to go, heading upwards about 160 miles an hour, winding his way up to Schwalbentrons at this point, and Hammer right now, we have been an absolutely laser precise lap as he comes out of the corner, a bit of power oversteer there through Schwalbentrons and in towards the Kleiner carousel. The car jumping out of the corner there, very close to the cross, the corner exit in third gear, and we're going on towards the brakes, in towards Galpop he goes, and absolutely no hesitation here from Hammer as he just balances the throttle for a brief moment before going full throttle, and now he's got to be willing the car on at this point, just saying to himself that it's got to have been enough as he heads into sixth gear, and all he can do now is pray that it is enough. But his sector time so far, they've all been personal improvements since what has been subsector 5 and onwards, albeit they've not been purple sectors. And could that mean that Hammer's perhaps not done enough to the front coat, but could it be enough to put him into P2 on this grid and have the 2 champions of the gold class line up side by side together? Of course, we have 3 gold champions on the grid with James Parker, who's going to be starting at P5 at best. But where can Hammer fit into the flow as he goes down at the hill, dropping down from 171 miles an hour all the way now down to what will be a corner apex here of always 67 miles an hour as he clears the right into left, and he charges his way to the timeline, just missing the pit exit wall, the pit wall there for the Nordschleife loop, and he heads to the timeline. It is going to be for Hammer. It's a fast lap, but how fast is it as he crosses the timeline? And it's going to be good enough for P2. It's 1.5 seconds off a coach pole lap. It's an 8:35.196, and with that that Thomas Cope will take pole position here in his Olympus Esports 1-3, with Hammer sliding himself at Impulse Racing in between the two Olympus Esports. As we can see, Daniel Sedgley here in the pit lane parked up, and well, he'll be starting at P3. But goodness me, the margin in the end between the top three being less than 2 seconds, and that is close for when you're going racing here at the Nürburgring, no question about it. But from the gold drives at P5 will go to your silver pole sitter, Matt Strand, who in the end takes silver pole position by what is the best part of 8 seconds over Adam Greason, second place silver, who lines up P7. And well, from Greason to Hatcher and Humberstone, the trio there from P7 to P9, it's only been 1.7 seconds between them. It's definitely going to be a challenging race for our drivers. And with 60 minutes of racing on the cards after what will be the warm-up before we go racing, well, I think right now every driver here is going to be using ample opportunity to make sure they've got the right setup on the car, don't win any last-minute changes, and also take what will be a major comfort break, because qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen, and we are just waiting now for the transition before we do go green flag racing. And well, when we do, it's going to be a race of survival, it's a race of stamina, and a race of consistency, and whoever can put all three together will be king. As we do just wait for the last of our drivers to be required to go back in to their pit stalls, and do believe that's in fact happened now. Absolutely pleasant day here at the Nürburgring as well, with quite a bit of cloud coming over the GP loop, but beyond that, clear skies above what is the Nordschleife loop. And there we do see the confirmation of our 5 drivers who did not set lap times. Well, we've got a 5-minute warm-up session now, ladies and gentlemen, before we do go racing. And with that, we would like to take a moment to let you know that if you have been enjoying the broadcast today, and perhaps you've been tuning in over the course of this season to the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 9, and if you haven't subscribed already to our Twitch channel or YouTube channel, depending on which platform you're viewing this broadcast on, we do recommend you do subscribe, so that way you stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts available at UKSimRacing, because of course we do have the Porsche Cup on Thursdays, and we also do have on Sundays what is the GT3 League. But if you want to go a little bit further than that potentially, if you're looking to support UKSimRacing via an alternative means, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UKSimRacing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies that do include Swello Meta Sim Racing Coaching, also Race Anywhere and Demon Tweaks. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk, and that website is going to appear on screen for you now, and there it is. To give you an example, when you'll notice there's a link in the top right corner of our website to our official Discord. Now, why is that of relevance perhaps to this conversation? Well, firstly, if you ever want to be on the grid for any of our series, including the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and plenty more we've got planned for 2024, if you just want to be on the grid for a one-off event, it means you have to be a member of the UKSimRacing Discord. It's a mandatory requirement, so that way you can attend the pre-race briefings and you can stay up to date with all the latest information regarding the event or series you're looking to take part in. But perhaps more relevant to today is the fact that on the UKSimRacing Discord are a number of discount codes provided by our affiliates, which are only available on the UKSimRacing Discord. And if you use one of those discount codes as part of your purchase, well, it's a win for you, given the fact you'll be in pole position to receive a discount, but it's also a win for the wider UKSimRacing community, for the simple fact that we are a non-profit organisation, and that means that every penny and pound that we make from affiliate purchases will go back into funding future series at UKSimRacing, including future seasons of the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and plenty more we have planned for 2024, including the ongoing British GT4 series. We also have the return of the MX-5 Endurance Series later this year, so it's never been a better time to be part of UKSimRacing and also make the most of our affiliate discount codes. And do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting the community. But as we do return to trackside right now, ladies and gentlemen, will a little bit of patience and car control can go a huge way here at the Nürburgring today, and we are only 2.5 minutes away from getting ready to go racing. And we'll, for our drivers now in this warm-up session, indeed many of them I think not choosing to go out on circuit, we're making sure they've got the right setup on the car and just giving themselves plenty of breathing room, because once it is lights out and away we go, it is a 60-minute or 1-hour journey which our drivers will be embarking on, and well, anything can happen over the distance, there's no doubt about it. But for Matt Strand, he'll be feeling confident that he can potentially make it another win, and well, if he can do so, it'll be a major result for him, which could just see him put himself on the cusp of what will be potentially sealing the Silver Class Championship at Brands Hatch in a week's time without having to worry about the final round and the potential drop score implications. But we'll have to see. Of course, it's one thing to say it in theory, it's another thing to do it in full practice. And the Racing Lab esports driver from Norway will know all about that, given the fact he's definitely been one of those drivers who's improved season to season compared to what was season 8 when he made his debut at midway through the season. And right now he's looking absolutely unstoppable. He's calm and collected, but at the same time full of pace, and that's what you need to be the leader of the race as he heads in towards Arenberg corner. And from him we'll look to Adam Greaves, and a driver you shouldn't count out for Fusion Racing in the 54, in the fact that whilst he may not be up there in qualifying, we are expecting Greaves to be one of the drivers who will come on strong over the race distance. He typically does find his pace the longer and longer the race goes on, as he decides to park the car up there on the run up towards Vidal. And meanwhile, past him, Paul Hyundai for the null pointers. No lap on the board, but he will be at the head of all the drivers who were not able to set a lap time, so therefore he'll be having a field of silver drivers right around him, and he'll be looking for the best possible start and looking to carve his way up the order as quickly as possible. He'll need it if he wants to get the points, because with the absence of Steve Hobbs today, he's still got an opportunity to hold on to P2 in the championship, but his main goal will be to try and limit the damage that Matt Strand can do if Strand takes the win, and Halliday will need to do that by finishing at P2. But as he makes his way on through Hudson back, and well, we are only 30 seconds away from seeing all the drivers being required to make the way in to the grid slots, and that standing start does await them. We'll place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Do let us know who you think are the potential favourites in the classes to take victory today, and I wouldn't want to predict in the gold class in particular, given the fact that Cope was the fastest by 1.4 seconds, but I think Hammer's saving up all his energy to have that front row start and looking to go racing with Cope down into turn at number 1. And the silver class, on paper, it's looking as though it's Matt Strand who could be the ringmeister today of the class, but anything can happen over time. And we're speaking of time, the time has struck 5 minutes as of now, and well, the Scotsman here, Sean Dobie for Clicks for iRacing, alongside everybody else, will be ready to go back into the pit. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for us to go racing for round number 10 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 9. So as all of our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our race today. It is Thomas Cope who takes pole position for Olympus Esports, joined on the front row by Impulse Racing's Philipp Hammer. We then have on row at number 2 Daniel Sedgley for Olympus Esports, and Cube Controls for Parto Courses Luke Andrews, with Matt Strand, your silver pole sitter, starting at P5, a great qualifying performance from him, and behind the Racing Lab Esports driver is James Parker, the privateer. P7, Adam Greaves for Fusion Racing, out qualifying Alistair Hatcher for ATEC Racing Siam, and behind Hatcher will be Glenn Humberstone for ATEC Racing, starts off our 5th row, with your top 10 being completed by Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports. Sean Dowie for Clicks for ATEC Racing, and Paul Halliday for null pointers line up P11, P12, and then we do have on row at number 7 Daniel Weston for Project 88 and Craig Schill for ATEC Racing Siam, and then on the final full row of the grid it will be Guy Kyle for the wrong stuff and Owen Halliday for the null pointers. But that's how they all line up. 16 drivers here today, with 6 in the gold class and 10 in the silver class. We're waiting on one driver to make the way onto the grid. I think everyone's gridded up, ladies and gentlemen, and well, without further ado, the lights are going on. It's 1 red light, it's 2 red lights, it's 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for round number 10 of the season as Thomas Cope gets a good start of the line. Hammer matches him as well as they make their way down towards turn number 1, but you can see immediately Cope going defensive as they head onto the anchors here. 9, he doesn't want to lose out. Sedgley meanwhile looks around the outside into turn 1, but now it's the long run up into the Mercedes arena. 3 wide they go, with Luke Andrews also trying to get into the mix but can't find his way in. Sedgley and Hammer meanwhile still battling side by side here, and Daniel Sedgley looking to take P2 before they get to the end of the GP loop to try and back up teammate Cope as they come through the left-hander of 3 on towards 4. Lockups further down the order. I think there was a lockup in particular. Look at what was it? I do believe Andrews is meanwhile. Sedgley being a bit wide slightly there. I do believe some contact between the two drivers, and the Olympus Esports driver as he's eyeing to catch the car and dropping down to P9. We're not quite sure how much contact there was. We'll try and get a replay of that in due course. But a lockup further behind, we did see it was for Adam Greaveson, in fact, running into turn number 3. And from then we now look to James Parker and Matt Strand. The battle for P4 here between the silver leader and what is your full place gold driver, raging its way down towards the Dunlop Carrera hairpin. As they make their way onto the brakes, Parker takes the position, as meanwhile Daniel Sedgley looking for a move here up the inside of Hatcher, who goes very deep down cold tyres and cold brakes, overcooking his brake marker in towards the hairpin, but no foul play there as both drivers make the way on their way up to Michael Schumacher-Reyes, and Sedgley already on the recovery, as meanwhile run wide for Adam Greaves, and that could be an automated slowdown for cutting track limits. Coming on through, it was the second part of the Schumacher-Reyes. He brings it back together. Sedgley looking up the inside here in towards the Bilstein Curve complex, and he can't quite find his way at the moment, but he will look look to go from his inside to outside, all the way around he goes, and Daniel Sedgley taking another place here. It's a brilliant overtake around the outside. I don't think Greason was going to put up too much of a fight, but still at the same time, great racing between us. Meanwhile, Glenn Humberstone finds his way past Marcel Fritsch, who decided to start from the pit lane. I think priding himself on a little bit of safety, and knowing this race is going to be just as much about getting the car home after multiple laps rather than taking the lead after one lap. As he makes his way out of turn at number 12, Glenn Humberstone pushing onwards. As meanwhile, we do have side by side here, Paul Halliday and Adam Greason, and Halliday has had a brilliant start. Meanwhile, spin there, and that's Alistair Hatcher pointing in the wrong direction. As meanwhile, Paul Halliday moves up into P2 in what is the silver class. Adam Greason under huge pressure as they make the way on down and around, on towards Watley Hudson back shortly, and that was Daniel Weston taking a peek on the inside into the Speed Schmidt curve. Couldn't quite make it happen, and as they go on through now, it's going to be single file for a good portion of the way as they make the way around the Nordschleife loop. But this, the first time around, is where it's going to be the test of confidence here. Have our drivers got enough tyre temperature available to them? As we briefly lose Adam Greason to the internet either, he does rematerialise, and as he does so, Daniel Weston still behind him by half a second. We can see now the gap is going to stay stationary unless the driver makes a mistake. Then we could see it explode outwards, alternatively explode inwards, and as they power the way on towards Floodback's corner, we're in the tow. Weston will gain a little bit of speed here, but he's also going to lose a lot of front end downforce as they make the way to Floodback's, and that is going to mean that for Weston in particular, he's got to be much more careful with the throttle pedal going through here. But meanwhile, Halliday's had a poor run as they come out of Floodback's. On they go out towards Schwalbenschons, and as they do, it's going to be Greason on the inside. They're getting the move done through Cottenarden up towards what will be the left-hander coin at the Schweidenkreuz corner, I should say, not Schwalbenschons. That's at the end of the lap, and as they make the way onto the brakes into Aaron Burwell, Greason takes P2 back in the silver class with Paul Halliday just behind, and well, it's now going to be Daniel Weston looking for an opportunity here as he goes hunting and on the offensive. He roars his way on through the corners, coming on down now in towards the compression, and well, side by side, Weston looking around the outside here. It's going to be a tough move to pull off, and Halliday's not going to back out as they make the way up towards Aldenar Force. Too wide they go, racing room being shown, but Paul Halliday in the end just stays ahead as Daniel Weston recognises it's time to back out. Don't risk it all as he locks up there going in to the sharp left-hander. Very easy to lock up on was the right inside tyres, and the front right brake in particular giving them the trouble, and the 107 driver now having to recover the car and get it back into the fight. In due course, he makes his way up towards Metzgersfeld. But as he heads on through, we look from our silver stars to our gold champion drivers here as they make the way on through. Wes Callenhard and Thomas Cope still leading ahead of Philipp Hammer as they make the way left into right, and now down to dry fat Rex they go. Meanwhile, Andrews also 1.1 seconds behind this, with James Parker a further 1.3 seconds behind. I do wonder here, well, we might see some significant fuel saving from our drivers in order perhaps to try and extend what will be a lap of racing, or alternatively just give themselves a bit more comfort in terms of the pit stop time. But either way, right now the limited fuel tanks around here, we will be seeing at least one pit stop today, if not multiple. And the form normally has been the 45-minute endurance races, that we have seen 2 pit stops from our drivers. Could we perhaps even see 3 here? That would be something that our drivers will also be wondering about, being quite delicate about. But as we do see Cope powering his way onwards now up towards Bergwerk corner, or Hammer after not getting the launch on Cope in towards what's turn number 1, holding on to P2. But meanwhile from them we have had an error, and that's Sean Dobie for clicks for ATET Racing, and I do believe that would have been coming out of their siphon potentially, where the 159 driver has got it wrong as he makes his way now down into Brideside. And as he does, the Scotsman getting very deep with the car to the wall there, and he's got to be careful because if he has to be towed to the bits, it is going to be an extremely long tow time. I would imagine that impacts the not the Asturian out of alignment, and we could be seeing an early pit stop for Dobie. Meanwhile, Humberstone side by side with Alistair Hatcher, and it's going to be Glenn Humberstone who makes his way through to take P8 in the silver class into Bergwerk, or just before coming out allowed the links. And well, the 212 driver will now pull his sister team driver from ATEX Siam up the hill, or Willie. In fact, no, Hatcher gets the better run. Coming out of Bergwerk, they're going to be side by side all the way out the rise here. And well, it seems like Hatcher with the better exit will just slot in front for now. But Humberstone will get back in the tow and use this to gain a couple of miles an hour back on his rival as they head up towards Westmouth Curve corner. No change in terms of the front at the moment. Indeed, the battling seems to be happening further down the order. But then again, it's early days here at the Nürburgring. We have still got a very long way to go in this hour. So therefore, our drivers, we started to get themselves settled in for the long haul, and it only takes one minor mistake to trigger off the domino effect of moments in this racing. And we'll speak of the drivers getting close to one another. James Parker in P4, he's fallen a bit further away from Luke. Andrews has opened up the gap to what is 1.8 seconds in front from 1.3 seconds at the start of what was the Nordschleife loop. And right now, as they make the way on the downhill run here with Parker under pressure or growing pressure from Matt Strand, your silver leader, and Daniel Sedgley just behind. And will Sedgley have to try and find his way as we ride on board the front nose camera here, or the bumper camera of Sedgley. And we can see Strand getting very close there as they make their way into Iceback, and as they head down through the left-hander. Well, Strand, I think, feeling as though he's got more pace in the car compared to Parker at this point in the race, but at the same time as well, have to be careful of the fact when running this guy's particular downhill run, it's going to make the car very unstable in its front end, and that is going to only complicate the run and cost him some time if he can't bring it together. But they made the way through Ice Curve. Right now, Sedgley is still was half a second behind. Not getting much closer here, given the fact he can't really gain those points. They made their way down for the Stefan Belofest, and over the jump they go. And as he comes on through the right hand here, now Sedgley will look to start to pounce with a flat-out commitment all the way from the left-hand king down towards what will be the end of Flugplatz 2, and going over the right here, you can see the car just bouncing around. Practically going, whoa, goodness me, Sedgley losing the car as he touches the curb. What was the run out of the jump, and was he brings it back together. The Olympus Esports driving the 29, avoiding the wall, catching the car incredibly well. I thought that was certainly going to the inside wall. It did in the end, and Daniel Sedgley, he's had 2 near misses now on this opening lap, and I can imagine his heart rate right now is going to be heading upwards of 180 at this point, for the simple reason an under 29 driver, he's definitely had his fair share of using up his 9 lives so far here at the Nürburgring, and how he's able to keep that point in a straight line, that is testament to his ability. But as he makes his way on through the right hander of Galgen Kopp, it's going to put him 5 seconds down on Matt Strand, and will power his way down at the Döttinger Höhe straight. Meanwhile, Craig Schill making his way on the inside there of Owen Halliday, I think, who's had a bit of a mistake going on through at Schwalbenschwan's corner, and will the Britain for ATEC Racing sign making further progress, and Halliday by comparison falling back. As meanwhile, in the battle between Parker and Strand, where it's going to be side by side between these two as they head towards the run to the top point of the Döttinger Höhe straight in terms of maximum elevation, and Strand will go around the outside. Parker will try and tuck in behind for a brief moment and through Tiergarten into Hohenbrain, and will Matt Strand takes P4 there, your silver leader, making some further progress versus his gold counterparts. It's not worth any extra points, it's only worth a little bit of pride on the line, and right now Matt Strand enjoying his racing, no doubt about it. As we do say hello to Ryan Walker in the YouTube chat, good evening to you, right, I hope you're doing well, and saying that Dan Sedgley will be needing a new pants after that indeed. As some would like to say, it may have been a bit of a brown trouser moment, but meanwhile, as Parker chases after Strand, from then we look back to Daniel Weston and Paul Halliday as they fight over P3 in the silver class, coming down towards the Yokohama S hairpin, and on to lap 2 they go. Weston on the inside, Halliday on the outside, onto the brakes. We had a lock-up just in front, I do believe, for what was Adam Greaveson, and Weston holds the position there for its P3 in the silver class of Project 88, but knowing that Paul Halliday will look to come back sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, Owen Halliday in the chase of Craig Schill for P6 in the silver class, and in return Alistair Hatcher right behind. Halliday's looking for the move here. It's going to be quite late on the inside, goes all in, a small lock up there, has to release the brakes and let the car go, but as he does so, Craig Schill seeing it coming and leaving space to go for the cutback run, but Halliday will now have to defend versus Alistair Hatcher as they head on through turn 2 into the Mercedes arena, and onto the drop down they go, and Halliday's front right tyre right now will definitely be quite hot on the brakes, those front brakes not wanting to engage, and the low pointers drive goes exceptionally deep through turn number 3, and now he's falling down the order with the ATEC Racing drives making the way through. Hatcher's just past him, and Glenn Humberstone will be the next to try and look for the move as they head in towards turn number 6. As they head on to the brakes here for the left and right, Halliday just needs to find some time to cool those brakes and tyres down. He'll be able to get back into the flow, but of course with the number of fast firing corners that are coming up for him, he's not going to have plenty of opportunity to do so before he heads on to Nordschleife Loop. But from them we look up to your race leader here, Thomas Cope, who's still got Hammer right behind, and with the Impulse Racing driver giving pursuit. 4 tenths is the gap as they head on to the brakes of Vido, and as they exit out of the fast version of the late chicane. We're going in towards the left-hander to take them onto the Nordschleife Loop, and the Hammer is closing little by little. It does seem as though Hammer on this second lap now in the zone, and feeling as though he can start to mount some pressure as they make the way on through at some inch-bit curves. Now as we ride on board here with the number 60 driver, familiar circumstances for us, can we rode on board here before what was the end of the qualifying session, but now rather than the clear track in front of me as an Olympus Esports car being piloted by rival Thomas Coe, well, this is going to be just as much about preserving the car for Hammers. It will be about trying to find a move. In fact, by running this close, he will be gaining to a degree on the straight, but he's also going to be having a little bit less cool air over the front of the car, and that's only going to hurt the front tyres a bit more than he would like to at this point in the race. But the gap will oscillate. Gap opening up there to 6 tenths on the exit of what was the run out of Hohenheim, And what I think there for Hammer, just a little bit dirty, upsetting the car, but it's not going to upset him too much as he goes into the Lookman's corner, lifting off a bit earlier there to offset the dirty air, and that's going to now give him the opportunity in the toe to start to close little by little, and we'll get to see the straight line speed of the two machines here. Different setups in the car most likely for going racing, but no discernible difference other than Hammer having the toe, brings himself back within 4 attempts as I head in towards the left-hander of Troyes. And as they do, Hammer right now staying clearly behind, albeit half a second's the average gap, and Coke not like that for the simple reason that puts mental pressure on. And around here, just holding track position is key, but at the same time as well, having a driver that's a bit further away from you also gives you a bit of mental relief. But having a driver who's half a second away, it means you constantly got to keep pushing, and this is where the mistakes can happen, even at the premier tier of racing within this series, in the fact that these two drivers, masters of their craft, no doubt about it, but it only takes one minor lapse of concentration, and right now they'll both be trying to put each other under even more pressure to push faster and drive harder, and that's when the mistakes are made. As they make the way onward towards Metzgersfeld, and meanwhile Glenn Humberstone looking to come back versus Owen Halliday. These two fighting as they make the way into Schreidenkreuz, into left-hander. Two wide they go. Owen Halliday going a bit deep but keeps it off the grass. Humberstone backing off there. 9. There wasn't really the space to try and carry all the speed through the corner when the initial side-by-side, and also I think conscious of the fact that it was Halliday going very deep, and perhaps wondering if Halliday would make it onto the circuit. Well, he definitely did so in the end. They now charged it way down towards the compression. Gap still standing at only a 10th here as Humberstone getting closer and closer. Up through the rise they go. Brilliant racing between the two right now, and Will Halliday, I think, has started to find his groove a little bit more after what the lockups on the GP loop, having to go defensive there in Altenau, of course, forced on the fact that he outbroke himself into the first part of the corner complex, and as he exits out, Humberstone not getting a strong of a run and falling back behind. But meanwhile, as the Hatcher and Craig, Schill swapping places, with Hatcher getting ahead of Schill for what it is, P6 in the silver cars, with Schill making a mistake on the run up towards Metzgersfeld. But meanwhile, speaking of instance of mistakes, we've got a couple of replays to show you from the start of the race, and when we take a look back at what was the instant between Daniel Sedgley and we believe Philipp Hammer. But before we do, Alistair Hatcher losing the rear of the car, and the car going around that Callan-Hard corner trying to get it off the road, and does so in the end, reversing and pirouetting very nicely indeed, in the fact that they're being aware of the fact other drivers were making the way through and dropping all the way down to what is P14 overall, P9 in the silver class. But for Alistair Hatcher, I think he'll be grateful he got the car off circuit before his fellow ATEC racing drivers made the way on around. Indeed, they would have been blind and only have just seen a yellow flag waving, but wouldn't have known what had been around the next corner. And as they make the way on through their siphon, right now Sean Doe will be galvanised and looking to go on the hump. But bringing us back to our train of thought from only moments ago, we've got a replay of the race start coming up, and here it is. Now we take a look back at the race start, and we're going to be looking at the perspective of Daniel Sedgley as he gets underway here. A good start from Daniel Sedgley at the beginning of the race. You can see getting the better launch compared to Hammer from P3. And as they made the way down towards the braking zone here for turn number 1, Sedgley immediately going the offensive, and I suspect his mantra was to try and get ahead of Hammer over the course of the opening portion of the lap. But as they made the way side by side up towards turn number 2 into the Mercedes arena, you'll notice Hammer keeping the outside, plenty of room being given between the two drivers. They came down into turn number 3, and this is where we had the lockup from further down the order, and it was a lockup from Adam Greaves, and we can confirm that. But in towards turn 4, and a small tap there on the rear bumper, it would seem, from that camera angle from Hammer to Sedgley, and that's what put Sedgley sideways. I think Hammer would argue that Sedgley may have cut off his nose into turn 4, and I think Sedgley would argue that he'd done enough to earn the right to take the apex. So two different perspectives in that instant, no doubt about it, but that's from one camera angle we had available. And then a little bit later on the open lap, we did have an instant further back. In fact, we can see it there in the rear of the picture. What exactly happened? We take a look back now, starting with Glenn Humberstone, who I believe may have had an error into turn 3. Indeed, coming into the corner and going there. Oh, goodness me, in contact there between himself and Owen Halliday, and then Humberstone being turned across the front of Halliday's car. The two drivers making haste to one another, and I think both had a bit of a disagreement as a result. And then what happened to Sean Doe for Clicks Racing? Had a great start as he made his way down in towards turn number 7. It was Weston looking up the inside, lock up there for Daniel Weston and sending Sean Doe around, it would seem, from what we can see on the camera. Not too clear if there was contact where Doe had gone under his own volition, but the lock up from Weston would suggest otherwise. But again, that's why we're in the commentary booth and not by the stewards. The stewards have got plenty more camera angles, but Sean Doe's race getting off to a rather awful start compared to what he would like. And a bit later on the open lap, we also had an incident for Alistair Hatcher going on through the Vidal chicane up towards the final corner of the GP loop. Onto the brakes he went, and as he did so, cold tyres there and a downshift, I think, kicking the rear of the car up, and that's what we saw Hatcher go around before he made his way onto the Nordschleife loop and having to wait to go racing up once again. well, as he now brings the car back together in the replay. Of course, we did see him have that spin on lap number 2 going into Cannon Hard Corner, and we return to the live racing action now as he brings it down towards Brunchen Corner. But as he does so, all right, now coming towards the end of our second lap, and we look back to your leaders here, and indeed we change to the class standings on the left-hand side of your screen. As you can see, here are your 2 gold leaders of Cope ahead of Hammer as they make their way down the Döttinger Höhe straight, and well, as they do, gap winding down here. It's come down from 6/10 all the way down to 3/10. They make their way up the rise, getting ready to go underneath the gantry board, and as they do, well, now it's going to be a question of, will Hammer look for the move, or will he just tuck in behind it and save some fuel instead? I think he's going for the latter here. It's a long race, and therefore he doesn't need to do anything exceptional right now other than preserve the car and keep the pressure on. I think Cope as well will be mindful of that. I think he'll read the signals in the fact that Hammer does seem to just want to stay in his draft and stay comfortably there behind. And can Cope also back up the pace potentially and just save a little bit of tyre life and also save some fuel? And we do know that based on how this season has run so far, Olympus Esports do have a slight advantage with regards to their tyre preservation capabilities compared to Impulse Racing. We've seen it multiple times in the endurance race and the feature races, but they're just able to go another lap or 2 before they hit the metaphorical cliff. Once they come down into Yokohama S, Hammer going a bit deep there, but making sure not to ride too hard on the brakes in order to save the brake life and also the front tyres. So Hammer there, I think, just deciding to ease himself through the corner, not worried about going too deep, so he can always make up the time behind Cope. But these two right now running nose to tail and no signs of their battle abating whatsoever. Meanwhile, we look back to James Parker, the P5 overall gold driver, but P4 in the gold class, and still in a back-and-forth battle with the silver leader of Matt Strand just in front of him there as they make their way out of turns 4 and 5 and onwards towards 6 they go. And well, as they do, since Strand's been able to get ahead, Parker has really been at the whim of trying to find his way back into that position, but Strand holding it firm so far. As meanwhile, off camera, we're hearing that Sean Dobie has found his way past Owen Halliday, and in fact, I think there's been another incident for Sean Dobie. Oh, goodness me, and in fact, there's been a 2-way incident for Sean Dobie and what is Alistair Hatcher there, as the Clicks with ATX Racing Drive is struggling to get the car turned onto what is the circuit, and I think right now it's just batting against a wounded suspension. I think also trying to get it off the road there, so that way Marcel Fridge can make his way safely through, but Dobie can't get it up the hill. I think it's going to be a tow to the pits, and for Sean Dobie, that is going to be absolutely punishing, because it is going to put him effectively what will be, well, I do believe it will move him on a lap, but I think that might be a retirement for Sean Dobie, given the fact that he's made his way into the pits. We'll have to wait to see in due course, but it's definitely been a frustrating moment there for the Clicks Racing Drive. But what exactly happened is the big question, and it's going to be something we'll take a look back at very shortly with regards to a replay. But as Matt Strand looks to try and hold off James Parker as they make their way up towards Vidal, coming to the point that these two absolutely inseparable, much like our overall race leaders. And well, for Parker, I think the challenge will be, where can he find an weakness in the armour of Strand, with Strand going slightly deep there into the final corner out of the GP loop. And I think the Norwegian driver putting himself under a little bit of undue pressure now as he comes out and down in towards what's the Hatzenbach complex. As we ride on board and look back to the rear of the 273, the Racelab Sports logo flying high on the rear wing. Parker knowing there's no real opportunity now to make a move, he's just got to stay close and maintain the pressure as we come towards the end of the first third of racing here at the Nordschleife loop, and indeed the whole Nürburgring. As the two drivers weave and wind their way through, Parker having a very strong run there, and in fact it looks as though now as they head into Hohaken, Parker may be itching for an overtake heading up towards Flugplatz, so that'll be my guess. But what he's going to do is try and get nice and close, and as he comes out of Flugplatz, look for an opportunity to go too wide up towards what will be the Schroederkreuz corner, with the gap now 2.5 tenths into Flugplatz they go. And as they do, Parker still there, and in fact getting the better run. And well, here comes Parker then looking to go all in. Well, Strand for the car. Will he put it in the middle of the road? Will he put it over to one side? Well, I think it's going to be over to the inside initially, but in fact, what's the outside now? Parker gaining the overspeed here into left-hander. Looking on the inside into Schroederkreuz, and Strand backing off there, completely lifting out, knowing being on the outside in towards Schroederkreuz and not being able to turn towards the apex is a destination you don't want to be on, for the simple reason, if you keep the throttle in, you're going to be going very wide and to the grass, if not the tyre barrier. And in the end, James Parker putting the pressure onto Matt Strand and finding his way back into P4 ahead of what is then your silver leader as they make their way up towards Aldenar Forest. Well, Strand now tucking in behind Parker once again and looking to stay with him. But as they make their way for Aldenar Forest, we have the question of what exactly happened to Sean Dobie and Alistair Hatcher only moments ago. And here's the replay of the end of lap number 2. So So battling side by side, Sean Dobie and Owen Halliday together here, and as they made the way in towards the final couple of corners, Dobie getting ahead but missing his brake, he's only going straight on, and Owen Halliday following suit, and then Alistair Hatcher doing the same. So all three drives, much like we saw in qualifying, going on through what was the run of Hatzenbach, where we saw three drives all follow each other into the same mistake. Well, exactly happening there, and the ATX Racing sign driver Alistair Hatcher and also no pointers Owen Halliday able to get away with it, but not so for Sean Dobie, whose race came to a very abrupt halt. And meanwhile, as we return to your live racing pictures right now as the drivers continue the way on through, I can tell you that Sean Dobie's tow to the pits, in fact, has been completed, and he has made his way back out after the repair work has been done to the car, so he is still on the effective lead lap, but now down by the best part of what is almost 1.5 minutes to Owen Halliday. Or if you look back to your standing tower, 16 drivers all fit together, 16 starters, still 16 drivers on circuit, no retirees thus far, which is fantastic to see. And well, the big question there being asked by Ryan Walker is how we're doing here at the commentary booth. I'm doing absolutely brilliantly, thank you, Ryan. Indeed, it's another fine Thursday evening and fine racing so far here in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 9 Round 10 at the Nürburgring Combined. And well, this race is now starting to take a more strategic turn compared to the early stage of the race, and I suspect we're going to be now waiting to see who will be the first drivers to flinch the pit stops, because Strand falls a bit further back from Parker. Gap now 1 second, but will gradually close as he makes his way on the long run uphill, charges his way past Kesselchen, and then very shortly Klosterol. Well, the tow will be with him for now, but of course, then in the latter half of the downhill section lap, we'll get to see an indicator of whether Parker can gradually pull away and start to make that P4 his own, chase down Luke Andrews. As it does seem at the moment, Cope and Hammer, as we look back to your leaders, they have their own pace. They're in a bit of a world of their own in terms of race pace, albeit Daniel Sedgley would like to debate that, albeit he's down in P6 tonight and looking to try and chase after Matt Strand, but might be working on an alternative strategy in order to gain some track position through where's the pit stops. We'll have to see, but Cope and Hammer lapping was the best part of 3 to 4 seconds a lap faster compared to the rest of the field, and then the next fastest driver out on circuit at the moment is Daniel Sedgley. Well, he's on the similar pace, in fact he's only a second off compared to these two, but then we do have Luke Andrews, who is in the 42s compared to the 38s for Hammer and Cope, and that's where we start to get the visual of what is 3 to 4 seconds is the delta of the pace between these two and Sedgley, and then the rest of the field as they roar their way one around. But as Cope makes his way on down and up towards finishing curve, he goes once again, albeit not first, without making a way to was Whitman and then Iceberg. Well, you can imagine that he weaves his way down for the left and into the next right-hander, with Hammer being right there. And then to really protect the car as much as possible, make sure not let the understeer force them to put any excessive steering lock in, because that's where you start to really scrub off what is the life of the tyres, particularly on the outside tyre of a given corner. That's the left-hand tyre there of what was the right-hander Brunchen corner. But it's going to be all about staying as close as possible until the pit stops. Can he get a jump in the pits potentially? Can he undercut? Alternatively, can he get nice and close and then go blasting into the GP loop? Well, those are all the options that are available to Hammer, and Cope we're looking to try and find his own options in order to stay one step ahead. But either way, the two titans of this season definitely right now roaring on here and making it look like rhythmic action as they roll their way on down towards the end of the lap and looking in an absolute ease in terms of taking on the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke. But as they make the way all through with the Schaubenschwanz corner, Cope ahead of Hammer so far, and well, that's how it started and that's how it's remaining as they head towards the midway point of this race. We'll be coming towards the end of another lap shortly, and well, that'll be 3 laps completed and approximately what will be 26 minutes down when they get to the end of this lap, and will we see those first pit stops materialise, as meanwhile a driver who's on a charge of his own, where it's none other than no pointers Paul Halliday, who right now looking to try and hunt down Daniel Weston for P3 in the silver class, and well, Halliday is gradually gaining here. That gap is coming down little by little, but then again he's got plenty of sectors on the lap to try and wind the gap down, as we do see was a mistake there from Weston going quite deep into Schaubenschwanz, not to the gravel trap but almost taking a visit, and a premature one at that, but that's going to put Halliday very close as he makes his way out of the Kleiner carousel and on towards what will be here Gallencroft corner into the right-hander. And as we jump aboard here, can Halliday find a way to jump in front as he makes his way out of the downhill right-hander and now on into the back straight? was a relatively poor run out of Galvin Cobb. In fact, the gap opening all the way up towards 8/10, and notice there Western immediately doing a little bit of bobbing and weaving down the back straight, trying to break the toe. He's worried about Paul Halliday getting too close for a move here, and I think he's aware that Halliday on average is the faster of the two drivers as the race leaders pass my commentator booth window, and I can tell you that staying out there, Luke Andrews meanwhile is into the pits from P3. So Andrews coming in early, same for Parker, same for Strand. So Copenhagen decided to go one more lap. They found a way to get the fuel tanks to go a little bit longer, and well, goodness me, that is an incredible feat. If everyone else has to come in and they do not, but Halliday makes his way on through what is Horn Rain and into the start-finish line straight. The no pointers driver there having a slow run coming out of what was the last couple of corners. In fact, bogging down, I think the wrong gear being selected there, using full gear, because you hear the car not building up the revs whatsoever. But everyone coming into the pits here, minus what is Copenhagen, and well, with that, how they've been able to save sufficient fuel to be able to do this, that is testament to the fact that whilst they're racing at what is 3 seconds a lap faster than the majority of the field, they're also keeping the fuel levels right in the prime situation. As Andrews leaves the pit lane, being the first to pit and the first out of the pits, he's back in the P3. James Parker meanwhile comes on through, and Daniel Sedgley has jumped up towards P5. Meanwhile, Matt Strand is still in the pits. It car up on the jacks. He's taking a tyre change. Meanwhile, I think his rivals around him have chosen not to change tyres. That's Adam Greaveson who comes out the pits. Now, is that an error from Strand, or is that a plan in terms of how he reckons he's going to need new tyres towards the end? Well, Paul Halliday also making his way out. In fact, it's side by side here, and Halliday does get ahead of Strand in the run out of the pit lane as they go back beyond the limiter. And with the no pointers driver again, another place gets ahead of Western. Western's in the pits, and I believe Daniel Weston is changing tyres as we look at our contact booth. We indeed the cars up on the jacks. Guy Kylie Al gets ahead, and well, Daniel Weston, I think, and Matt Strand both opting to change tyres on the car, and with that, they're going to give themselves the better rubber for what is this second stint, and potentially we expect there's one more pit stop here. Or if it's going to be cut very fine, then they're going to give themselves the best possible rubber for the entire run of the Nürburgring circuit all the way through to the conclusion. And some of you might be sat there right now thinking, well, actually, could Strand have just played a very smart bit of strategy? And the answer is yes, he could have. Given the fact that we do normally see the tyre compound on these Porsche Cup 992 machines run out of life after 20 minutes of hard racing, and normally it's the craft car drivers in these endurance races to try and save the tyres and get them to last at least 30 to 35 minutes where they can be run at their maximum. Well, with that in mind, Strand right now, he's going to have lost a lot of time as a result of that pit stop, and to put you in the frame of mind, his stationary time was 43.6 seconds to the stationary time of what was Adam Greaveson standing in at 16.27 seconds. But the flip side of the coin is you can make up with a fresh set of tyres around here, and given the extensive nature of the lap, you can make up the best part of which 25 to 30 seconds, which is that time offset with fresh rubber if you are able to turn it on and you're able to manage it. And that's the problem. It's not right now for Strand versus rivals. It's on the final 2 laps around here when the tyre life comes to its minimum threshold for its likes of Paul Halliday and Adam Greaveson. And will they have enough tyre life to make it round, let alone try and fend off a Norwegian who's got plenty of tyre life to go and will be feeling very confident with the car at that point in time, with the car being light as well on fuel? Well, that's what we'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, speaking of two drivers getting very close, once again, the two who decided not to pit, and right now they must be running on fumes out there compared to their peers, given the fact that everyone else has pitted so far. Well, Copenhagen have separated only 2 attempts. They made their way into the compression, and still they go. And up and through Aldenau Forst, and as they do, we ride on board and look back from the rear of your race leader as number 64 driver here pushes onwards as much as possible, and will hammer the championship leader by 2 points over Daniel Sedgley and 9 with Cope with 0 score in hand. And also dismal into his racing at Silverstone 2 weeks ago. Cope right now needs every point he can, as meanwhile Hammer wants to finish P2 as a minimum. As long as he finishes ahead of Daniel Sedgley and stays extremely close to Cope, he'll be feeling as though the championship is still gradually creeping in his direction. As they come out of Callan Hard and in to the Spiegel curve, we can see here Hammer letting the gap open back up to an average of half a second, giving himself free room, giving himself time to anticipate. Meanwhile, from them, we have had a change of position as Paul Halliday balanced side by side with Matt Strand as they make their way over the crest on through what was their Cottonborn and up towards Schroedenkreuz they go. And as they do, well, that's the first move made by Strand, now up into P2 in the silver class, looking to go on the charge. It's only 6 seconds between him and what is Adam Greaveson, and he's got all the tyre life disadvantage, plus also we do understand that Strand, based on qualifying and the race so far, does have what is a couple of seconds a lap pace advantage over Greaveson, and that is only going to work in his favour ever more. But Halliday right now will look to try and stay with Strand. for as long as he can, at least observe and see where he might be going a little bit quicker through certain corners, perhaps using a slightly different line. And the 175 drive from the null pointers will also look to stay with Strand, so that way Strand can pull it up to Greaveson and he can go hunting for second place there if he can't take the win off of Strand. But of course, that's not to say Greaveson's not going to put up a fight. I can imagine the Fusion Racing driver will try and make himself as wide as humanly possible if he's got the tyre life to do it. But of course, tyre life is premium currency around here. And as we make our way into the second half of the race, well, our drivers right now all on a fine balancing act, as we do see James Parker being closed up to by Daniel Sedgley. Sedgley still in that recovery drive up to P5 now and looking to try and take another goal position and move himself up into P4 as we switch to the class standings on the left hand side of your screen. And as we do, Parker being called hand over fist as he makes his way out of Exmuller corner and in towards Lauder Links before Bergwerk. And well, I think it's a question of if and not when. Well, in fact, it's a question of when, not if. I should say, Sedgley's going to be starting to size up a potential move on number 120 driver. But to be fair, Parker knows exactly where to defend around here. There's a reason why he's a two-time champion in the UKSimRacing at Porsche Cup, and he was indeed the first gold champion when the gold class did materialise. Indeed, when we started to see the separation drives into classes, and when he makes his way up the hill here. Right now, he'll be looking in his rearview mirror and conscious of exactly how close Sedgley is and where Sedgley is gaining the time and where he can potentially look to frustrate Sedgley and indeed make sure he stays further and further behind. As they make their way sweeping through the curved corner, or as drivers make their way onwards towards what will be Stillstrecke very shortly. The sun's staying quite low here, and track temperature at this time looking at quite a pleasant, what is at 26 degrees centigrade still, and the same for the ambient temperature. Indeed, no change from qualifying earlier today, and I suspect as a result that's going to make it quite a pleasant circuit to drive on here. In the fact it's not too warm, but it's not too cold, so therefore our drivers don't push too hard to start to get those tyres in the right temperature zone, and maintaining the tyres in the temperature zone as well is not going to prove too difficult a task compared to, say, if we had a track temperature of upwards of 35 degrees centigrade, more so 40. But still, our drivers will be mindful of those weather conditions, and also the fact that as the racing goes on, the time of day goes on, the circuit could start to lose a little bit of temperature out there, and that may just change the attitude of the car and indeed how they approach the last couple of laps. We see Parker almost going a little bit deep there, making his way from Hoaxton in towards Hedwig's Hole, but making no changes out of it. Indeed, bringing the car back together with the gap to Sedgley being cut by a 1/10.5 as they make their way down a slight miss of apex there, as he now makes his way in towards Iceberg. From Whipperman, and Parker, I think, starting to struggle a little bit through this downhill section. Perhaps the tyre life starting to go against him, as me or Daniel Sedgley stand right there. And both of these drivers did not take tyres in the pits, as we're to understand, and they both opted just to put fuel in the car and go racing it once again. And it would seem as though the Olympus Esports tyre advantage we talked about earlier is definitely ringing true as they make their way out of Ice Curve. But as they do so, we jump on board here with the Olympus Esports driver Daniel Sedgley, who right now continuously working his way in behind Parker. Lift off the throttle there before the jump. It's not quite early in order to save fuel and also to make sure the car didn't overextend in what was the toe of Parker's after the jump. All down through the flats by they go, and as they do, well, Sedgley is very familiar with this corner sequence already. In terms of how dirty over the front of the car and how it unsettles the car after his major slide on the open lap, which he managed to catch and keep it out of the wall. I can imagine even despite all that, the fact that he's running at this pace and able to manage the tyres, Sedgley right now is working some magic out there. We could call him the tyre whisperer as he makes his way on through the kind of carousel, and as he does so, Parker almost dipping the rear right tyre to the glass as the car was launched out a bit prematurely. Parker really on the edge now. It does look as though Marcus struggling for grip out there as our race leaders have made their way into the pit lane, looking up the contact roof window, but looking to our cameras here. Sedgley right now close. It's a 10. It's going to be a drag race all the way down the Döttinger Höhe, but when will he pull out to go for it? He pulls out early here, albeit he pulls out at the right time as well. He can't really stay behind it anymore. Given the fact they won't want to bump draft each other down the Döttinger Höhe, so that will only put damage on the cars, but now it's a drag race uphill, and Parker just very gradually tucks himself back in, delays tucking in. However, the idea being here that Parker is going to look to come out of the toe very shortly over the Bilstein rise and look to come back for a move. And in fact, they come on through the left hand as Sedgley defends the inside run on through the left hand kink, and onto the brakes they get ready to go, going on through Tiergarten into Hohenbrain, and it is going to stay the way of what is Daniel Sedgley making the move count up to P4 for Olympus Esports as they go on to what will be lap number 5. And as they do, your race leaders have come out of the pit lane, and well, they are as they were when they went into the pit lane, with Thomas Cope still ahead of Philipp Hammer, albeit the gap has now opened up slightly more to what is almost 1.8 seconds. And in terms of pit stop times, practically identical, but Hammer having a slow release from its pit box, we're to understand it, and lost half a second there by comparison. And will Philipp Hammer right now for Impulse Racing will look to try and make sure that gap doesn't expand beyond 2 seconds, because the drafting zone of these cars is roughly in the region of about 1.7 to 1.8 seconds. It becomes noticeable, or in terms of just how much speed you start to gain, around 1.2 to 1 second off of the rival in front. But if the gap goes beyond 2 seconds, you start to lose that tow zone, and that is what Thomas Cope will want to do. He'll want to open the gap up to beyond 2 seconds, because it gives him breathing room, and it means that on any long straight or any short straight, Hammer's no longer gaining, but instead is now having to work even harder in order to get closer, and that gap continue to withstand and what is just shy of 1.8 seconds. The Hammer giving it everything here to try and come back and get close enough to go on the offensive. Cope now will know this is time. We've got to get his head down and push that gap further and further open in order to feel confident that he can now run away with this. As meanwhile, a driver who's on the charge here in the silver class is the Luxembourgish driver of Guy Cowley for the wrong start, just setting a personal best of a 9 minute 30.42 to the nearest 100, and Daniel Weston behind setting a personal best of his own at a 9 minute 52.51. Weston's lap so far not quite at the pace of Kory Lazarus, albeit the point of being here is the fact that it does seem as though, and in fact I do believe that the lap time there from Weston we are misquoted as well his best laps. I think that was a glitch on our timing tower, but one thing we can definitely tell you is that Kory Lazarus right now showing great pace for the number 17 machine, and looking to try and chase down what is Paul Halliday, albeit Halliday a couple of seconds faster on the previous lap. So Kylie out, I think, keeping an eye on what's coming up behind and looking to make sure he can hold on to that P4 in the silver class before all is said and done. It would be one of his best results of the season, no questions asked. As he heads down into the Dunlop Carrera hairpin, we would like to take this moment to let you know that voting for your driver of the day is now open, and very shortly you will be seeing in your choice of chat, whether it is Twitch or YouTube, a Google Forms link which you can use to vote for your driver of the day, and all the votes will stay open until midnight as of what is this coming Sunday, the 18th of February, so there's no rush for you to cast your vote for driver of the day, but it does mean a lot to our drivers. And of course, once those results have been tallied, we will announce the driver of the day for the Nürburgring at the start of qualifying in a week's time at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for rounds 11 and 12. But meanwhile, coming from that thought to what's happened to Owen Halliday, has been an error at turn at number 1, and we looked to him on the recovery there for the null pointers. The 21 drive brings it back together, and what exactly has happened to Owen Halliday, let's find out. Making its way down to the braking zone, running P9 at the time in the silver class, P14 overall. I suspect there may be a lockup here as he heads down to the braking zone. In fact, can't go straight on. Indeed, the lockup then materialising. I think perhaps missing his brake marker by about 35 metres, and in the end recognising it a bit too late and having to lock up the front right in order to get the car to come to a standstill, albeit not enough in the end, and having to take a small trip to the gravel trap, but thankfully able to drive over and through it. And the number 21 driver back on his way and won't want to make that mistake again today. As he powers his way down towards the Donald Kerr hairpin, we look to the live pictures once again. Well, right now the null pointers drive at 9. There's a 25-second gap to Craig Shield, but he still does have the best part of 1.5 minutes over Sean Dobie, who after all of his misfortune, in fact, he's now come down to minutes. Our time has been updated, but the point of being that he's going to feel confident that things aren't going his way in terms of keeping clear of Sean Dobie. And meanwhile, for the Clicks Racing driver with A-Tech Racing, it's been a challenging day, no doubt about it. Right now, staying in this to win it and bring home some points for P10 in the silver class, and hoping perhaps there might be a retirement or two that could seem promoted towards the end of the race. As he makes his way on through. Meanwhile, we talked earlier on about the fact that Matt Strand, with the tyre change, would have a significant tyre life advantage over those who did not, and Adam Greaveson was one who chose to stay out there in terms of going back out on it with the same set of tyres as before. And we're wondering how quickly Strand will close up. Well, here's your answer in the fact that over the course of what is 1.5 laps, Matt Strand has found his way onto the back of Adam Greaveson, and was they made the way through at Metzgertsfeld. Right now, Greaveson, when we look in his rear view mirror, I think Warren, oh goodness me, as he locks up and the car goes straight on into the tyre barrier there, and the Fusion Racing driver under pressure and the tyres not wanting to cooperate, and the 54 driver takes a hit to the wall, and it's a further lock up there as he goes down to Callan, gets it stopped in time before he hits the firm metal barrier, but that releases Matt Strand into the lead of the silver class, and the Fusion Racing driver now, well, he's going to be hoping that impact at all has not done too much damage to where's the steering rack of the car in terms of how straight the steering points, and particularly that front right suspension. But could that mandate he needs to come in at the end of this lap, and how much time is it going to cost him over the remainder of this lap, given the fact that Paul Halliday is on a mission to try and close him down, as the no pointers driver wants to finish P2 here as the minimum today, as he makes his way on through the right-hander and onwards towards what's Brightside corner. But as he does that distant camera view showing the flow and run over the Eifel Mountains, he weaves his way through the local terrain. We're coming on through it and up towards what will be the right-hander here of X-Mueller curve. The no pointers driver right now getting some all set. Oh, good, it's a hit to the wall there for Paul Halliday as the X-Mueller corner catches and claims a victim today. And will the 175 driver, not quite sure what happened there. We only saw the tail end of it, but the car being sent sideways to the wall, and will much in a similar fashion to Owen Greaves. And I think the front left suspension taking the brunt of that impact, and will for the Briton, can he get this car home? We'll have to wait and see as he makes his way now for the second half of the lap that's upcoming, and as he makes his way on the rise all the way towards Mutt Curve corner, we have an opportunity to take a look back at what exactly happened to Paul Halliday, and here's the replay. Making his way in towards the right-hander, and a small tap towards the apex curve there, but I don't think that's what unsettled the car. I think it was an exit, trying to get the power down too soon perhaps, or too aggressively, and it just unsettled the car. Some rear oversteer kicking in, and indeed the car being snapped from one side to the other, and I think in trying to correct the car snaps back against Paul Halliday and put it to the wall as a result. As he brings it back together and goes at racing, we return to live pictures, and as we do, progress here from Guy Kyliau, who's chasing after Daniel Weston, who's recently had an off-track coming out of Bergberg corner. He's brought it back together in time, but Kyliau's been able to slash the gap to Weston. He pulls it on down. In fact, we should correct that in the fact I think Daniel Weston has found his way past Guy Kyliau quite recently off camera, and as a result, Kyliau now on the offensive. In fact, we can confirm because it was previously Kyliau in P4 in the silver class, now in what is a P5 in the class, or P10 overall, and Weston has gained a place. But I think there was an error for what was Weston coming out of Bergberg, which saw him run a bit wide, and as a result, Kyliau was able to close up the gap for a brief moment, but as they made their way through the carousel, that gap opening back up towards the second here as they head onwards to positive 147. And well, it's Daniel Weston who is definitely showing that he's a slightly faster driver through what is this portion of the lap, if not the entire lap, and Kyliau looking to now just chase him off towards the downhill run to complete the lap. But speaking of the overtake being made by Daniel Weston on Guy Kyliau, here's the replay to show how it was made. So it's coming into Ehrenberg corner, and Kyliau on the outside there, getting his power down, but I don't think I have the confidence to get the power fully down given the wide circumference he took through the corner. So Daniel Weston putting the pressure on and getting Kyliau to run a bit deeper than he would like, and Weston in the end stealing away the place in a very brilliant move there from the 107 driver as he now makes his way on at the rise through the field. And as he does so, we return our way to our live pictures. Can he go a bit further western, given the fact he does have was an 18-second gap to Paul Halliday? But do keep in mind that Daniel Weston was the other driver who opted to change tyres in the silver class alongside Matt Strand, and therefore Weston will be feeling as though the car's in the prime condition to go hunting. But meanwhile, speaking of going hunting, Thomas Cope and Philipp Hammer still stay nose to tail, tied together here as they make their way onto lap number 6, and with 16 minutes left on the clock and lap times of just under what is 9 minutes on average when we exclude Wes pit stops. Well, right now there'll be 2 more laps of racing from all of our drivers, including our leaders, by the time they complete this lap and then go on to the final one. And well, Cope right now holding on by half a second, but Hammer is right there staying with him. Neither driver opted to change tyres in the pits, as you pointed out, so this is going to be a race against each other as much as it's going to be a race against Tyre Life. As meanwhile, fastest lap of the race goes to Daniel Sedgley in P4, the Olympus Esports 29 driver, second place in the championship at the moment, and the leading Olympus Esports driver in the championship standings is looking to hunt down Luke Andrews, and on that last lap took 3 seconds out of Andrews on his charge through the field. And can he find was the last little bit of time in order to make it a P3 as a minimum today? We'll have to see. And well, he's in for a journey, as is Luke Andrews, who right now, the Q Controls Pato course driver, will know that Sedgley is coming through the field and the fact that Sedgley is setting purple laps here, despite the fact he's still on the same tyres that he started the race on. That's going to make Andrews wonder just how much more pace Sedgley has in the car. But to be fair, with Sedgley setting a purple lap like that, that goes to show you just how much pace is brought to the table. You have to wonder if there weren't the contact between himself and Philipp Hammer into turn 4 on the first lap of the race, where could Sedgley have been in terms of that lead battle right now? But still, that's a what-if question. I think he'll be asking that alongside the team, but he'll be keeping his head down and focusing on what is in front of him, and there's the opportunity to steal away a P3 today from Luke Andrews. As meanwhile, as our drivers make the way through the Schumacher airs, we do see at the fault there from Connor DM Craven in the Twitch chat with regards to the battle between Cope and Hammer, saying Cope is controlling this race, but Sedgley has had one great recovery drive, and indeed I'd 100% agree with you there on both accounts, in the fact that Cope has been in control so far, and right now Hammer has been staying with him, been made to work hard to close up when the gap has opened up. But I do just wonder, given the fact we have seen some brilliant battles between these two over what is the best part of the last year of racing in the UKSimRacing at Porsche Cup, over the last 4 seasons of racing. And well, there's a reason why Philipp Hammer is a 3-time champion. Cope is a 1-time champion, looking for his 2nd championship crown this season, no doubts about it, and well, absolutely motivated. And you may remember at the end of the season 8 interview, immediately saying to Philipp, I'm coming for you next season, and well, having to put the evidence here today with regards to the chase, and it is a game of cat and mouse, albeit the cat right now is Thomas Cope, and well, in fact the mouse is Thomas Cope, and meanwhile the cat is Philipp Hammer. But will we see the roles reversed before the end of this race? Will we see a potential letting of Hammer go into lead on the Döttinger Höhe this time around for the final lap? Will it be a big gamble if so? But it's been done before, both in real life and also in virtual racing, to let the lead swap before the drivers go on to that final lap. 9 that Döttinger Höhe does await both drivers on that final lap, and here they go as they make the way in towards the Schroedenkreuz corner, and again gap only 2.5 tenths as they enter, gap only up to 3 tenths on the exit. But the key point being between the two drivers here, that Hammer right now is here to stay, and Cope, whether he's in control or whether Hammer right now is putting the pressure on, is doing very well to resist the pressure that Hammer is trying to lever over him as they make the way down towards the compression. As they head inwards and upwards towards Ardenau Force, we look back to the overall standings, and we'll see a new personal best lap for P14 driver Marcel Fritsch, P6 in the gold class. Last of our gold runners currently, but still keeping his head down, being in it to win it, as they say, as we do have both Owen Halliday and Sean Dobie into the pits for what will be their 2nd and final strategic pit stop today, albeit we have had an extra pit stop for Sean Dobie to repair damage on the car earlier on. You may remember he had to be towed to the pits. But I do wonder here whether we could see a dive to the pits for the majority of our drivers at the end of this lap, and then it's going to be a sprint to the finish on what is that final lap of racing. As Cope and Hammer make the way down from Callan, we take a quick sip of water. Running nose to tail, and from them with Matt Strand now in the leader still class, we do still have the big question of Daniel Weston versus Paul Halliday, and in fact Daniel Weston making his way on through what is there, the run up towards Flugplatz, and Paul Halliday at 16.4 seconds clear at the moment. Weston is chiseling away at that gap, he's chipping it down little by little. I think it is still a long gap to bring on down in this time, and based on the average lap time we've previously seen between the two drivers, it does seem as though Weston's going to find a bit more time out there if he wants to try and bring home that P3, given the fact that the delta of that lap time has previously been in the region of about 6.5 to 7 seconds, and already he'll need that to be around 9 seconds if he wants an opportunity for the final lap. But meanwhile, more opportunities abound here as we ride on board and look back from the rear of your lead car and Thomas Cope in the battle between himself and Hammer as they make the way out of Bergwerk. Up the hill they go, and we'll have within 2 tenths they made the way into Bergwerk, really starting out to get confident with the car, and Cope as they make the way up the hill, pulling away at the moment. They get the toe, bring them back together as they head towards the curve corner. No interchange at this point in time in terms of any side-by-side, but again I think Hammer is just trying to incrementally put more and more pressure on, just really trying to get to Cope's head. These two professionals at their craft, and both of them right now, they'll know all the psychological games just as much as those which are done on track physically between the cars. And as they make their way in towards what is still track, you can see there little bumps and weaves from Cope, just trying to break a little bit at the toe as they make their way in towards the braking zone for the long right-hander. The young man being trying to unsettle his rival, because Hammer needs the toe to stay close in what is those uphill runs, or looking to gain as much time as possible. But in return, if Cope can just break that gap open, he can break the toe slightly, it just prevents Hammer from being able to close up as much as light and putting that pressure on as they head up towards positive 1-4 7. Sweeping their way uphill and towards the high point of the circuit. They begin their downhill descent once again. It's in this downhill descent that we have seen Hammer so far not quite able to match Cope, and the gap does open up to a degree as they make their way up Poland to the into electric tower. I wonder if this time around we'll start to see Hammer push a little bit more pace into the car, albeit it's so challenging making your way off of these raised apex. You need to jump, you need to bounce the car over them in order to get the optimum like she wants. A straight line from corner to corner, given the rapidity of how the corners come together. But as you can see there, Hammer going a little bit deep, almost running wide, going on through Whipperman and down to Iceback and down towards Brunischen they go. But again, that shows you that Hammer right now pushing hard, but having to deal with that dirty off the back of Cope's car, and that dirty end just cost him a little bit of speed he would like, and putting him on the ragged edge as they make their way in towards the ice curve for it's the 6th time of asking. Both drivers making the way on through it, and a little bit of power oversteer there from Cope, and Cope in his own right as well. Whilst he may be leading, he is not relaxing in that car, and right now having to push hard as they make their way over from the Stefan Baloff S and in towards Flugplatz they go. And on the downhill run, this is going to be when it's going to be a flat-out duel of the minds as they make their way on through the right, left, right complex, straight line as much as they can, and with both drivers there looking absolutely in control. I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, they make it look so easy out there, but it's anything but that as they head in towards the Schwalbenschwanz corner. And out they go, and again Hammer still at 4 attempts, not really able to close up on this long run. I think Brinksluffer was saying only moments ago that it's the last run, the final or the second half of what is the Nordschleife loop. That is where Coach seems to be a bit more in control compared to meanwhile the first half of the lap. Hammer gets very close over the majority of it, and now onto Döttinger Höhe straight they go. Both drivers running right onto the limit there. I think they've got plenty of instant points to work with, given the fact they've been absolutely pinpoint precise thus far. And as they make their way down the Döttinger Höhe straight, we can confirm we have had our first retirement from the race. Sean Dobie unfortunately retiring on what was lap number 4 with the damage picked up on the car. In the end they've decided to retire the car. Still 15 cars running however, and here comes Hammer. He's in the drop, he decides to pull out. Cope meanwhile does not react. It's a side-by-side run here, and as they make their way underneath the Bilstein Bridge and onwards towards Tiergarten, will we see Hammer look to try and make his way around the outside completely? He does. Now into the inside going into Hohenrain, but in turn Cope comes back and gets back ahead as they head onto the brakes, and as they make their way through right into left, will we see them peel into the pits, or will they just carry on? Well, I think they're going to carry on to the very end, and here they go then, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be one more lap of racing. The clock strikes 52.5 minutes complete. Lap number 7 gets underway. Cope leads this race by 6 tenths. Hammer behind in the battle for the overall gold win, and it's the closest battle on the circuit. We're going to stay with it all the way to the end and keep you abreast of other battles as they arise. And speaking of which, while those battles, Luke Andrews and Daniel Sedgley, we make a quick passing mention to that on this lap Daniel Sedgley has ripped time out of Andrews, but they're both going into the pits. Now Cope and Hammer have not pitted, so they're going for a 1-stop, whereas the majority of the field is going for a 2-stop. I mean, goodness me, if we get the chance to speak to Cope or Hammer after today's race, and I want to know the inside story of how they made that 1-stop happen, with the pace they're bringing to the table. But meanwhile, Andrews, Sedgley and Parker all going on through, and as they go into the pits right now, could we see anybody else decide to go out for what will be a 1-stop strategy bar the 2 race leaders? Well, would anybody benefit from it? That's the big question. It is literally a quick splash and dash for both Sedgley and Andrews, and will Daniel Sedgley in fact has jumped ahead as they make their way out of the pit lane. Side by side they go, and the Olympus Esports drive on the inside here. Meanwhile, Andrews on the outside. Andrews is going to try and go around to the inside of turn number 2 of the Mercedes Arena. A tiny little lock up there from Andrews prevents him from doing so, and as they make their way into turn 2, Daniel Sedgley finally finds his way into P3, and we said these two were close, but they got a lot closer in the pit lane. I think Daniel Sedgley in the end not quite having enough fuel to do the 1-stop, in fact having a 4-second stationary time to the 6.3-second stationary time of Luke Andrews, but the 2.3 seconds gained in what was that pit stop was enough to put Sedgley just ahead on pit exit and force what was a defence or a return counter-attack coming through turn 1 from Luke Andrews, but in the end not quite able to get that counter-attack to come together, given the fact that a lock up there into turn number 1 cost him the line. But meanwhile, as they make their way on down towards what will be turn at number 8, we look to Paul Halliday come into the pits. As he does so, Adam Greaveson leaves the pits. Daniel Weston still on the charge behind, but these two are separated quite significantly right now, and as they all peel into the pits, we do look back here to Cope versus Hammer, your leaders, as they've begun their journey onto Nordschleife for the final time today. And well for Cope right now, gap up to 8.5 attempts. And I do wonder whether now the gloves are going to come fully off here. If Cope's been keeping anything in reserve, he's going to demonstrate at this point. he'll want to get that gap up as much as possible, particularly before they get towards the Döttinger Höhe back straight. And if the gap could be at least what is 1.5 seconds, he may just feel safe come that final run of the straight, as the gap opens up to a second there as they make their way out of the run of Heuheiken and in towards Kudovaco Hoa before Flugplatz as they make their way up the rise and over the jump they go. The front two wheels lifting off of the tarmac there for a brief moment. Well, Kobe right now landing it firmly, so does Hammer. Gap at a second, but Hammer's in the tow, creeping along little by little as they come through. And as they do, I can tell you that Alistair Hatcher has gone for the one-stop strategy as well. He's decided to fully commit to it, and he's gained on Glenn Humberstone. Albeit Humberstone only 4.3 seconds behind. I do wonder where we might see the two of them battle a bit later on, but we'll come to that battle in due course should it materialise. As meanwhile, we stay here glued to our leaders. They make their way down in towards the compression now. Gap at 8 tenths. It's the biggest it's been after the run of Arenberg over the last 3 laps. And I would say that Cope right now, whatever he's kept in reserve, he's definitely trying to deploy it as Hammer continues to try and bring that gap back down to something that's a lot more comfortable, trying to bring it down to its 4 to 5 tenths. That's where he's normally been, but Cope is continuing to respond here as they make their way out of our fours. Meanwhile, we look back to Sedgley versus Andrews for a brief moment as they make their way on through Flugplatz themselves, and as they do, well, right now Sedgley under pressure from Andrews as Andrews tries to get closer in the return for P3, trying to go on the counter-attack here as we look back from the rear of the Olympus Esports 29 car. Gap closing ever still now 2 tenths as they get ready to make their way into Troy Croy's corner, but it's only 1 wide through here unless you're fully alongside on the straight leading up to it. And Sedgley holding on, gap open up to half a second there as they make their way through the right hander, but Andrews is not giving up on the cube controls of Parto course driver. He may not have the pace in the early stage of the race, but right now he's finding those last couple of attempts to keep in contention versus Sedgley as they head down towards the compression. Here comes Andrews looking for that potential move, very close indeed as they make their way towards our now force. Both onto the brakes they go, and as they do, it's going to be Andrews right there every step of the way. Both drivers on the tyres they started this race with as well, so neither driver has a grip advantage, and that's only going to add to the fact that potentially Sedgley's had to work his tyres a lot harder in order to recover to P3, and in doing so has he cost himself the life to be able to hold on to the P3 that he's been able to gain on this final lap. Meanwhile, as they make the way on through and up towards what we can hard, we look back to the leaders here, and the gap is now 1.1 seconds. As Cope makes his way in towards Bergberg corner, and we're coming on through the right hander. These two being the best part of what is 54 seconds clear of the rest of the field as a minimum. And Cope does seem to be absolutely ice cold, and indeed right now putting the freeze on this battle as much as he dares hit to dream. So in terms of how much he's pushing around the circuit, gap up to 1.1 seconds. But Hammer, of course, in the tow at this point. He will gain a little bit as they make the way on past Klosterol and in towards Mutkirk shortly. But again, it's not here that matters. It's going to be that downhill run. When we know that Cope has proven to be the faster of the two drivers over the course of the race, and so far you can see Cope there running right to the edge, and in fact I think they're going to dip the right tyres onto the grass, and that's cost him a bit of time there as he almost runs wide as well through the right and kink before Stillstrecker, and well, that's brought the gap all the way down to 7 tenths. It's given a lifeline to Hammer because it looked as though Cope was really starting to inch that gap up enough to feel safe, but right now I don't think he's going to feel as safe anymore as they make the way into the carousel as it's known in full. And as they go on through, Hammer closing a whole 10.5 there out of the carousel, and Cope right now was looking to be a very strong first half of the lap, maybe started to struggle a little bit. Has the tyre life just gone beyond the limit, and has Hammer been able to find a way to be able to just simply protect the tyres a little bit more? Well, now we'll find out as they make the way downhill, because this is where on paper Cope should be the stronger of the two based on all the laps we've seen. But if Hammer can keep this gap down to half a second as he's done so over the start of this lap, then it may just be an opportunity down the Döttinger Höhe. It's going to be a duel to the finish as they make the way on in towards Whipperman here. It's going to be absolutely back and forth as they roar the way down, and we are staying with this battle all the way to the end, with Sedgley putting 1.5 seconds over Luke Andrews. No close battles out of the circuit, and as they make the way on towards Brunschen corner, bit of a run wide there from Cope, but brings it back together just about. 5.5 tenths is the gap, but he's not pulling away, and I think now Hammer is starting to feel as though he can really make this attack work on the final lap, albeit we've still got the run through the Stefan Beloff S coming up now, and then Slandsgarden's fine, and that is going to be what is going to be a huge factor here as they make the way in towards what will be the final run of the lap. Well, down they go then, charging away on through the flat out run, and well, how much grip is available? Well, for Cope, he's not got any dirty air to worry about. You can see the cars bouncing around once again clipping those curves as much as they wanted to get the rotation, but not too much to put themselves at risk of oversteer. And as they head upwards towards what we Schwalbe Trods, where it's the final time they go through the left-hander, completely off the camber run as they exit the corner and in towards the Kleiner carousel, but Hammer runs wide, and that's going to open the gap up to 7.5 tenths. Cope will take some inspiration from that. He'll push as hard as he can now towards Galkov. The gap continues to open with dirt on the tyres there. Hammer still trying to get the car back together. Galkov sees them separated by 9.5 tenths as they make the way on through, and now it's all about burying the throttle, getting the perfect run, and Cope does exactly that, as does Hammer, but look at the gap, it's 1.1 seconds. The toe will gradually start to equalise and bring Hammer in, but I think it's too much of a gap now for Hammer to try and bring down, and Cope at this point, he'll just point the car in a straight line. He won't want to bob and weave, he won't want to take any speed off the car, he'll just pray that he's done enough, that after what has been a whole hour of racing, it is going to be enough, as he makes his way underneath the Bilstein Bridge one last time, and as Hammer gets closer and closer, it's 8 tenths, but it's not enough so far. It's going to come down to a mistake from Cope if Hammer wants to be there come the checker flag, was they roar the way on through Tiergarten and in towards Hohenrain. Cope's now only got one quarter to break for. The anchors go on, no sign of a lock-up, and as he makes his way through the left-hand corner, it's the run to the checker flag. It gets ready to wave, and it's going to wait for one man today. He took pole position, he's led every lap, and Thomas Cope will take victory in round number 10 ahead of Philipp Hammer P2, and then it will be Daniel Sedgley who will be shortly coming on through in about 58 seconds time for what should be P3, but as the 2-1-2 finishers here for Olympus Esports and Impulse Racing bring it down and cool things down. What a race it has been between them, no doubt about it, but in the end Cope bringing it on home just about in what's been a one stop for the two of them. But meanwhile, further down the field, here is Daniel Sedgley from Olympus Esports, who right now is still pulling away from Luke Andrews, albeit the gap is coming back down, it should be said, due to the toe, but going on to the Döttinger Höhe straight. It was a gap of what was, I do believe, at 1.8 seconds for Sedgley, and whilst Andrews has brought it back down for Cube Controls for Pato Course, he's not going to bring this recovery driver Daniel Sedgley down to earth any longer, because whilst it wasn't the win today for Daniel Sedgley or a P2, he'll be on the podium alongside his teammate, and for Olympus Esports, he completes the journey to a 1-3 in the number 29. In a brilliant recovery drive, and then Luke Andrews will take P4 in the end in the gold class and overall, and a solid effort for the Cube Controls for Pato Course driver. Surely it's going to be a P5 for James Parker. Meanwhile, the privateer who had to battle hard for P5 versus Matt Strand, your silver leader, and was Parker across the line to take his checker flag. Meanwhile, we look back to Matt Strand, who right now, well, he's been in complete control of this race from start to finish on a two-stop strategy. We opted to take the tyres as well to give him the comfort, and whilst he fell down to P3, he battled his way past Paul Halliday. He fought his way past Adam Greaveson after putting the pressure on the Fusion Racing driver. And as he makes his way out of Hohenrain, the question we wanted to ask today is, could it all be wrapped up next week at Brands Hatch by Matt Strand? Well, the answer is yes, because the silver leader takes the win again in the silver class and puts himself on prime form going into our final 3 rounds of the season. P6 overall for the Norwegian driver, and then it will be 17.5 seconds before second place in the silver class today. It's going to go to Adam Greaveson in an absolutely brilliant drive for the Fusion Racing driver, and really the best of the rest in the class in the 54 in what will be a huge points injection for his championship campaign, and it'll be a further 17.5 seconds to what will be Paul Halliday, who didn't have enough to come on through for the run-up spot, but he's been able to bring on home P3 and a great recovery drive after what was a difficult qualifying session. And as he heads across the line, the no pointers driver takes the final spot on the silver podium in what will be a race to remember in terms of how he recovered from the difficult start. But meanwhile, Daniel Weston comes on through to take P4 in the silver class. The Project 88 driver, I think, wishing that things have gone a bit better today, but still knowing the fight was within him, and keep your eyes on him at Brands Hatch. So I get the feeling he could be on course looking for his first podiums of the season. But then we come from him to Guy Kylie out. In fact, I think he's already picked up podiums as Guy Kylie out cross the line for the wrong stuff. He takes P5 in the silver class, P10 overall for the Luxembourgish driver, and will then be Glenn Humberstone who takes P6 in the silver class, P11 overall for ATEC Tech Racing. And a challenging day today for the team as a whole. And we're speaking of, oh goodness me, it's gone very wrong there for Alistair Hatch, and surely he's not beached himself on a curve, but literally at the final corner on the final lap, he's trying to get the car down off of the curve. Can he get it off of the curve though? It's stuck. I don't think Hatch is going to see the end of this race, and if so, that is going to be absolute heartbreak as he tries to get the car released from the curb there, and well, as he does so, trying to wiggle it back and forth, And well, can he get it going? I mean, I think we'd all want to get out and give him a hand and give him a push if he could. But unfortunately, we can't, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, just trying to unsettle the car. And I wonder whether he's going to be on the radio to the team management to say, well, Craig's got to come up behind me. Can you get Craig to give me a quick push round if he's got the instant points available to him? Because Hatcher can't go anywhere. And well, here's Craig Shield just gradually making his way on down the back straight as he makes his way up the Döttinger Höhe, and as he does so, as the Hatcher right now, his teammate, I think, will be asking for help, and will Shield give him a little bit of a love tap to push him round. We'll have to wait and see as the iRacing Cyan driver makes his way on through the last couple of corners, taking it easy. I think backing off completely. I think he has been given the order to help his teammate out by giving him a gentle nudge. Well, here he comes, and will he give him a polite tap? No, he won't. In fact, just parks up there and drives on. Well, goodness me. I think the iRacing side drivers having a little bit of a chat about that one after the race. In the number 82, Craig Shield will come on home at P7 in the silver class in the end, at P12 overall. And will, as the Hatcher in the end, has had to be towed to the pit, which will by default promote Marcel Fritsch to P13 at the finish for WS Racing Esports, and the Austrian driver will cross the line there as your last finisher on the lead lap after heartbreak for Alistair Hatcher, and then having to be towed with literally only 200 metres to the finish line. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, as he parks up, donuts being done here by Thomas Cope, who I'm amazed there's any fuel left and any tyre life left in the Olympus Esports machine. But he is your winner from today, and what a drive it has been from Thomas Cope. As we say hello there to Olympus Esports boss Charles Porchel, or Charlie B, who says Thomas is the king of the ring, and indeed today he has proven himself to be the ring meister, as he does plenty of donut rings there as well. And well, for Thomas Cope, he's back on fine form after the disappointment of Silverstone only 2 weeks ago, and what a drive from him today. As he gradually brings the car to a halt very shortly, we take a look to a seated view, ladies and gentlemen, and let's take you through those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. So after what has been an absolutely phenomenal 60 minutes of racing here at the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke long layout, bringing together the best of the GP Loop and the Nordschleife Loop in round 10 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 9. Subject to Stewart's inquiries, Thomas Cope, your winner for Olympus Esports by 1 second over Impulse Racing's Philipp Hammer in what was a back-and-forth battle between the two of them from lights out to checker flag, and indeed, you couldn't have asked for a closer chase. It was cat versus mouse, but today, the mouse from Olympus Esports got away from the cat from Impulse Racing, and for Philipp Hammer, he won't be too displeased at the fact he finished P2, but he'll know that Cope is on the rise once again, and with 3 rounds to go, 2 weeks of racing left, well, Hammer will want to make sure that Cope doesn't get his way every day. But still, at P3 there for Daniel Sedgley, a brilliant recovery drive for Olympus Esports, his second driver in the order today in the 29, after it all went wrong in the opening 4 corners, found his way back to P3 and onto the podium to complete what is a 1-3 for Olympus Esports, ahead of Luke Andrews P4 for Cube Controls for Pato course. He was only a further 1.2 seconds behind, and credit to Andrews where it's due in terms of the fact put up a solid drive and trying to keep Sedgley at bay, but wasn't quite able to do so, but managed to stay ahead of James Parker, who completed your top 5 there for the privateer outfit. From then, we then come to your 6th place overall driver and your silver winner, Matt Strand, making it another win of the season so far. And he bar 1 race he has yet to finish off of the podium. And will the wins keep on coming for the Race Lab Esports 273 machine, ahead of Adam Greaveson, one of the best part there of what was, if my mathematics is correct, the best part of 18 seconds, with a Fusion Racing driver doing well to finish P2, ahead of Paul Halliday, who round off the silver podium for the Knoll Pointers. Been a challenging day today after a dismal qualifying session. Daniel Weston, P9 for Project 88, ahead of Guy Kyliao for the wrong stuff. And then we see Glenn Humberstone, not quite in the top 5 of the silver class, P6 in class, P11 overall for ATEC Racing, ahead of sister team driver ATEC Racing sign Craig Shield. And then Marcel Fritsch, your last driver to finish on the lead lap for WS Racing Esports, P13, and a challenging day today, but more challenging for Alistair Hatcher, no doubt about it, with a heartbreak for the ATEC Racing sign driver, having to be towed to the pit on the apex curve of the final corner after the car got beached. Also finishing lap down in the end, Owen Halliday for the Knoll Pointers, and we did have 1 retiree, but will be classified as a finisher as he completed over half the race distance. Sean Dobie there for clicks for ATEC Racing in a challenging day after an open lap incident that put him a long way down the order, and he was never quite able to truly recover and take in P16. We then look at the individual class finishing positions, starting with the gold class, and as we can see, your 6 gold drivers there in order, with the Olympus Esports driver Thomas Cope your winner by 9.3 tenths over Philipp Hammer for Impulse Racing. And more on a one-stop strategy, the pair managed to finish the best part of 58 seconds clear of third place Daniel Sedgley for Olympus Esports. So I get the feeling would have been on a one-stop as well, but in the end, given what happened on the open lap, decided to go for the two-stop in order to chase down at P3. From him, Luke Andrews at P4 for Cube Controls Pato course, and there was the privateer of James Parker wrapping up the top 5, head of Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports. And then coming to the silver class, your second and last and by no means least class of this series. And as we can see, Matt Strand there, your winner for Racing Out Esports by 18 seconds over Adam Greaveson, with a Fusion Racing driver keeping more Strand honest, but at the same time as well making sure to steer clear of Paul Halliday, who rounded off the podium for the Null Pointers in a strong drive in the race. Project ATX Daniel Weston at P4 ahead of the Wrong Stuff Sky Kylie to complete the top 5. And then Glenn Humberstone at P6 for ATEC Tech Racing ahead of the ATEC Tech Racing at Cyan sister team drivers of Craig Shield and Alistair Hatcher. Hatcher finishing a lap down. The same for Owen Halliday for the Null Pointers. And then P10 3 laps down for clicks for ATEC Tech Racing's Sean Dobie. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that completes our run through of the finishing positions from today's race. And we'd just like to remind you, if you haven't voted for your driver of the day and you've got a driver in mind now who you want to be your driver of the day, well, votes are open and the link has been reposted in both the Twitch and YouTube chats. Once again, it's a quick and simple Google form. It's only going to take you 3 clicks after you're looking at the form in order to submit your driver of the day. Do so, because that way we can announce the driver of the day for this round of racing at the start of qualifying in a week's time at where's the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a brief break in preparation for our post-round interviews with our drivers. We're going to be about 10 to 12 minutes, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, hopefully we've got some cracking interviews lined up, and you certainly won't want to miss them. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we're going to be hearing from two drivers, one in the gold class and one from the silver class. Firstly, we're going to be hearing from your gold class winner and overall winner today, plus your pole sitter of Thomas Cope for Olympus Esports. And then we're going to be coming to A-Tit Racing Science, Craig Schill, the number 82 driver, who had a challenging day in qualifying and the race, but started P80 class and finished P7, making some progress and getting some key points. And we'll get to hear his story in due time. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to have joining me in the interview room now none other than Thomas Cope. Good evening to you, Thomas. And well, it's been some time since we've seen you on the top step, but you're back in fine form today with pole position and also the win come the end of the 60 minutes of racing. It must feel fantastic to be back on form.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to be back on top and really pointing out what the result I should have and solidifying what could be still a good championship result for me. So yeah, Philip kept me honest that whole race, and I knew we were going to be tight. I knew Philip had some really good speed around here as well. I mean, it's in the nature. He's a German, so it's got to be good here surely. But yeah, that was a mega race.
Oh, without a doubt. And we'll come to the race very shortly and the game of cat and mouse between the two of you. But let's start off with qualifying, in the fact that over the qualifying session, two very different approaches. You decide to put your lap in straight away effectively. Meanwhile, Philipp Hammer waited until the very end and kept everybody wondering what lap time he was going to set as a result of overtime in qualifying. But it was a strong lap, an 8-minute 33.702 if my memory serves me correctly, and it was a lap with, whilst there's probably a couple of mistakes in there, you'd like to say, a lap that looks very smooth.
Yeah, I knew just getting a banker down, and I knew I had some good speed in general to challenge the front step and have a good race with Philip regardless. I knew, knowing this track's nature, you don't have to start on pole. As long as you start up towards the front, you've got a good result in you. So I didn't necessarily have the mindset of going for pole, but getting pole was definitely a good step for it and a good start for the race. But yeah, I think Philip had some issues, so he had to sort of come back in pits, reset his car and get a fresh car and then do his out lap again, and then obviously got around just in time to start his lap going into overtime or qualifying. But yeah, I was keeping an eye on watching his lap. He was making a few mistakes, and I could see his relative and I could see what he was doing. There was a couple of points where I thought he was actually going to be behind Dan and be a bit further down the field, but it was still a good lap in the end.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of Dan, it was looking to be a 1-2 for Olympus Esports in qualifying, but then 4 tenths was the gap between Philip and Dan. But then going into the race, of course, the first couple of corners, you held the lead, and we could see straight from the start, you knew where you wanted to be into turn 1 on lap number 1, and that was the inside to set up the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, I kind of made a mistake going into turn 1 as well. I went in deep, and luckily Philip kind of went deep with us as well, and it kind of pulled the whole train deep. So it made up for my mistake, but yeah, I knew to defend and try and stay ahead of Philip. I knew Philip's got a good sense on racing as well, so he could see what I was doing early in the race as well on the strategy. So yeah, I wanted to stay ahead and demand the pace. I knew me and Philip, even though we were heavy fuel saving, really had the pace to pull away from the pack still anyways. So yeah, it was good keeping that lead straight off the bat.
Now, talking about fuel saving, I have to ask, yourself and Philip are the only two drivers. I think, in fact, there was one more driver further down the order who may have pulled off the one stop as well. I think that may have been in the form of, well, in fact, double checking my records right now. It was meant to be Alistair Hatch until he got beached on the curb of the final corner on the final lap. But the point being here, you are one of only 3 drivers to do the one stop, and yourself and Philip are lapping 3 seconds a lap faster than the majority of the field. I mean, how do you do it?
It's all in the nature and practice. I mean, me and Philip have probably both got hundreds and thousands of hours in this Porsche Cup to ourselves, so we know how we can push the car and get some good pace, and also being able to still push the pace while fuel saving. And yeah, it was sketchy. I mean, I was talking to Philip on his stream earlier. We both crossed the line and came into the pits and stopped in our boxes with like 0.5 litres left in our cars. So it was very tight on the fuel saving. But yeah, I knew it was going to be tight, but I saw the numbers every lap. I knew I was getting better on the fuel saving and putting out the better pace. And I think the first lap was the sketchy lap, knowing you'd naturally use a little bit more fuel, especially with the start as well. But yeah, I mean, Philip could see what I was doing as well. He could. I don't think he actually planned to do the strategy, but once he saw that I was doing it and we were still pulling away anyways, he kind of followed me on the strat to keep it aligned and have a good fight at the end. So it was very scary, especially coming into that pit lane for that first pit stop. But man, was that fun.
Oh, indeed. I mean, we kept wondering the question, when were you guys going to pit? And when you did answer the question, we were then wondering whether it might have been a splash and dash right at the end of the race, but not to be. But speaking of dashing around the circuit, the two of you no further than what was 1.8 seconds was the gap ever going to grow between the pair of you, even in the closing stage of the race. And just in that scenario, of course, this circuit is quite synonymous with many saying it's a bit of a time trialing circuit. But it looked so, with all the pressure that Philip was trying to mount on you, you were not going to be forced to wilt under it.
Yeah, I knew I had some good speed in the car. I knew where I was better and where Philip was better. So obviously, where in the sections where I knew Philip were a little stronger, I kind of had a bit of an eye on my mirror just to see how close he was getting. But I knew for the back end of the section and back end of the track, in the final 2 or 3 sectors, other than this back straight, I had the speed over him. He had a really good setup for straight line speed. I'd love to know what they've done with that set. I think I've seen it before, but yeah, I wanted to take a bit more of a safer approach on the setup and make sure I can be strong through the corners, save a bit of tyre as well. And I think that definitely helped out towards the end of the race.
Oh, without a doubt. And going into that final lap, I mean, we did see a trend over the course of the lap, which seemed to be that Philip was typically the stronger of the two of you over the majority of the first half of the Nordschleife loop, but the downhill run all the way to the end lap was where you were coming on stronger. And on that final lap, it looked as though you had a bit more, like you say, in the car. And the first half lap, you opened the gap up, and then a tiny error set off a chain whereby Philip was getting closer and closer until he made a mistake coming out of what was Schwalbenschwan's curve.
Yeah, like I said, I knew where he was faster, so I knew I needed to push that a little harder, and then I kind of let my guard down, like you say, making my own mistake where I should have been better on the car. It is what it is. We're all humans here. We're subject to mistakes, obviously, but yeah, that mistake could have cost me. It kind of did, to be fair, until Philip made the mistake. So yeah, luckily I could. I had the speed to not let it get too close, but I had a strategy in mind to still potentially come away with that win, even if he came onto the back straight right on my tail. So it was going to be close regardless, and it was going to come down to either one of us being in the car or making a small mistake, or it was going to be a too wide across the line.
Oh, indeed, and it was a phenomenal and thrilling chase between the two of you, and in the end, the fact that the two of you were separated by such short margins and it came down to tiny mistakes that made the difference. I mean, that's been really the story of the season so far between yourself, Philip, also Mario Velgut and Daniel Sedgley, and that's why the four of you have been so close whenever you've been on the circuit. But I have to ask, with 3 rounds to go, 2 weeks of racing remaining, you're third place in the championship, but you're back with the momentum in hand. How are you feeling for the last couple of rounds?
Feeling good for Brands. I do like Brands Hatch. I do feel like I've got some good speed around there, and hopefully Philip brings some good speed and we can have another good fight as well. But it's going to be a close one there. And then as for Oran Park, I think it is for the final round. Yeah, that's going to be a hay bale in the needle stack. It's a different kind of track, and yeah, it's going to be fun to say the least.
Oh, indeed, and we look forward to plenty of the fast charging fun from yourself in these final 2 weeks of racing that are upcoming. And of course, in the Olympus Esports Camp, I have to ask, how's Dan feeling with the fact that he's so close at the top of the stands and recovered to P3 today after a bit of an altercation on the open lap? I mean, probably a little bit disappointed that it wasn't a 1-2, but flip side of the coin is a great recovery drive.
Yeah, he's really over the moon with the recovery after the early incident, but or early couple of incidents, obviously. But yeah, the camp at the moment is doing well. He's happy. He didn't come into the championship wanting to try and win, but he's happy that he's in a chance with a couple of good results that he could do well towards the end here. So he's happy. He's over the moon. He's doing better than me in the championship. I say I've had a couple of bad rounds recently, so I'm going to make a change and try and get closer to the lead 2 with Dan and Philip for the finish. But yeah, these last 2 races are really going to decide the championship.
Well, indeed they will, and we look forward to seeing how the story continues next week. And having heard your thoughts and the excitement for Brands Hatch in a week's time, one last question as always, Thomas, which is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, yourself, you do an amazing job on the broadcast. I love to watch it back afterwards. Definitely when it's been a good result like this, I enjoy watching them back. The whole Olympus Sports squad, we've had a good rough couple of weeks in January with races left, right and centre, and everyone's pulled through and doing a strong job and learning what they can and getting ready for the next race in very short times, and just being around in general, helping everyone do everything. Charles for keeping everyone in check and keeping the whole camp of Olympus sort of headspace mentally correct and keeping us on track with what we need to do. Dan for doing good job and helping where he can and doing his best, and yeah, all the sponsors and affiliates for Olympus, they all help us out so much in every way possible, like Grip Engineering with the sets, IMB for the gear, HSR Autos for getting the car on track. They're the killers for our team, and they really help us out in every way possible.
Well, Thomas, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. As always, congratulations today on what has been an absolutely dominant run, albeit fending off the charge of one of your main championship rivals. We look forward to plenty more in the United Kingdom in a week's time at Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit. But until then, savour the moment and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from today's winner over on in the gold class, Thomas Cope, and interesting to hear his thoughts with regards to qualifying, talking about the fact that all he wanted to put on the board was a good banker lap, and knowing that if he qualified towards the front of the field, he could go racing for the win, and a bit of a different mentality we've typically seen from Thomas Cope. Indeed, any of our championship battling drivers, they wanted to put the car on pole and have that track position. But today, I think knowing the length of the circuit and the fact they would naturally perhaps pull away from the rest of the racing field, that therefore it all come down to the long-term gain, and particularly playing into that final lap, so long as they stayed within 1 to 1.5 seconds of one another. So in the end, what it resulted in was some battling down into turn number 1, and then just managing the gap. And we did see some tyre advantage play into the hands of Thomas over the course of the race, particularly onto that final lap, and also what was a planned one stop, and explaining there with regards to the fuel saving being absolutely on the limit, only 0.5 of a litre of fuel remaining as he made his way into the pits for the one and only pit stop today. And talking about perhaps there a little bit of the surprise with Philipp Hammer perhaps adjusting his strategy to follow suit. Perhaps it was the Olympus esports game today to go for the one stop and surprise everybody with it, but Hammer clocking on and keeping cool, but having to have nerves of steel, the pair of them, to go ahead of it, because to have the fuel tank go that close to zero when you're out there, if you get it even slightly wrong and use up too much fuel, you're out of the race effective. But it wasn't to be. But what it was to be was a thrilling game of chase all the way up and down the Eifel Mountains. But in the end, despite all the pressure put on him by Philipp, Thomas was able to hold on, and for Thomas Cope, it is a win, and a win that takes him back to the top step of the podium and puts him well within arm's reach once again of the championship title. But now, ladies and gentlemen, coming on to our second and final interview for today. We've heard from the gold class, and it's only fair we get ready to hear from the silver class, and we're going to be hearing from Craig Gill, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And as he does so, we'll get to hear his story and also about what happened at the end between himself and his teammate. But as he joins me now, good evening to you, Craig. Great to have you with us. And what a challenging day it has been for yourself and the wider ATEC racing outfit. A P8 start in, a P8 qualifying position in class, P14 overall, a P7 in the ending class, or P12 overall. I mean, the Nürburgring is always going to be about just as much survival as it is about fast racing. But it looked as though for yourself today, it was just about bringing the car to the end.
I absolutely hate this circuit with a passion. I'm no good at it, no matter how much practice I've put in. But yeah, it was get into a rhythm and just let the faster cars go and just race my own little race and see if I can get through without either hitting the maximum X incident points or crashing out.
That's a fair assessment, and do appreciate an insight to your mindset that you approached today with. And let's talk a little bit about qualifying firstly. one of the longest qualifying sessions of the season, 30 minutes in duration, or what is the best part of what is an out lap and then a flying lap, and potentially the prospect of an additional one on top. Looked as though out there finding the pace, it naturally came, and you're improving at lap after lap.
I was getting the hang of it, but unfortunately with this circuit, with it being such a long lap, that it can go wrong at any point. And for some reason, it was always seemed to be going wrong on the last third of it. I'd do really well, and I was thinking I'm onto a good lap here, and then I'd just put a wheel wide somewhere, and it would be an X, and that would void the lap, and then you got to go again. But with it being a long lap, you don't really get a chance to go again, if that makes sense. It's tough to qualify around here, so just try to get a banker in and hope for the best, but I don't think I managed it, so I started from the back instead.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and well, we did see you not actually get a time on the board, but given you out of the circuit, it meant you did qualify ahead of some of your rivals. So going from qualifying then into the race, most drivers opting to go for a standardised two-stop, and we saw in the early stage to make quite some progress, albeit not without a bit of batting with your teammate Alistair Hatcher on the opening lap.
Yeah, me and Ali, we tend to have this 2 and 8 between us season after season. We always get paired up together. I think we like it that way, but we are a similar pace, so it is fun to race against him. But he loves this circuit, and he is quick round here, so it was just a case of try and hold him off as long as I could. But we kind of agreed that, or I agreed that if he got close to me and he was faster, I wasn't going to fight with him. I was just going to let him go and then try and stay on the tail and see if he could lead the way, kind of thing.
Oh, that's fair. And well, from that, of course, and once you had a bit of space out on the circuit to yourself, it looked so the laps were gradually going in, albeit perhaps not without the occasional off track. And well, from our perspective, it looks like if you dip one tyre off the circuit, a wall is awaiting you very shortly after.
It's very quick. It is literally, you miss your braking point by a millimetre, you put your wheel off and the back end starts coming round. I managed to save one off, and I thought I was going into the barrier, but I managed to feather the brakes and not hit the barrier and carry on. I think I dropped to about 14th after that one. But yeah, it is literally mistake, wall, done, out of it, that's it. It's definitely a very challenging track compared to some of the places we race round.
Oh, indeed. And going deeper and deeper into the race, it looked as though, particularly as things started to wind down on what was the second and final stint, it was more about bringing the car home at this point, albeit still chasing after the likes of Glenn Humberstone towards the end from the sister ATEC Tech team. Did you feel as though you might be able to catch him towards the very end?
Not a chance. Glenn this season is quick. To be fair, me, Glenn and Alistair were all within about a second of each other, and then you've got Lee Holmes, he's at the front, he's gone. But Glenn, I can't get anywhere near this season not for the want of trying. He is just fast, and he's getting faster. But yeah, it is fun racing him. We do have our fun times when maybe I one up him sometimes.
And speaking of fun times, we did see your teammate Alistair Hatcher ended up beached on the exit, on the apex curve of what was the final corner, and we were wondering whether you were going to pull up alongside him and give him a little bit of a push, but it looked as though you decided in perhaps a Top Gear fashion to leave him to it at the end of the race.
I heard over the Discord chat that he beats himself, and then I looked at the relative and saw that the time between us was dropping, and my intention was to give him a little nudge and then cross the line. And as I come around the corner and started to slow down, I just looked down and I was on 22x. So if I'd hit him, that would have been 4, and I would have got a penalty. And I was like, I can't do it. So I just went and drove off. Which we had a good laugh about.
Oh, no doubt. A bit unfortunate, but still the intention was there, but the instant points said no. And well, with this result today, In terms of the wider Silver Championship, as we head closer and closer towards our final rounds of the season, it does mean now you sit in what is, I do believe, P7 on equal points with Guy Kylie out in the fight for P6, and Glenn's not too far away ahead, and behind you guys have got Sean Dobie and Joel Douton close on your heels. I mean, it's looking a close fight for the final spots of the top 10 this season.
By the top two, the whole Silver Championship has been very close throughout, and it is literally down to whoever has a good race and whoever has a bad race. I'm hoping to maybe sneak a few more places if I can over the last 2 rounds. We'll see. We happen to be going to one of my favourite tracks, which is Brands. I love the place. I always seem to do a-okay there, but we'll see.
Well, that's sounding positive for next week's races. Of course, it is the final heat and feature week combination. You say you like the circuit, so what can we expect from yourself at Brands Hatch?
I'm hoping to outdo the teammates, because that's always my first aim. And if I can get up and get in the thick of it and maybe hopefully sneak into the top 10, I would be happy. I'd be over the moon, in fact. I'm going to try and keep it as consistent as I can and keep banging in consistent laps, and hopefully it will come to me.
We would absolutely love to see that. I'm sure many of the guys and girls tuning at home would love to see that as well, Craig, and we look forward to it in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yourself again. I'll echo what almost said. You do an amazing job doing these broadcasts. Love watching them back. And I've got to give a big shout out to my family, because they basically lose me when I'm racing. They lose me for 2-3 hours. And also the 88 Tech guys, we always have an absolute blast, as much as some of us may get a bit huffy and hot under the collar when we're racing because it's not going our way, but we always end up having a really good laugh, and it's always a pleasure racing with them.
Well, Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations on surviving the test of the Nürburgring and bringing the car home at P7 in the class of the endurance race. We look forward to seeing what you're able to bring to the table at Brands Hatch in a week's time. But until then, have a great week ahead and a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
So hearing it there from ATEC Tech Racing Science, Craig Schill, our silver driver, who today, a P18 qualifying, albeit no lap time set, but given the order in which he went out compared to his peers, was classified as P18 class, P14 overall. And talking about the fact the frustrations of racing this circuit, not a circuit he enjoys, the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke long, and instead really just having to focus on keeping his head down and trying to bring the car home. Wasn't successful in getting a valid lap time in qualifying, but was successful in the early stages of racing and to make some early progress, albeit a couple of incidents midway through the race, costing him to a degree, but through all in all, still keeping that progress and making it happen as the race went on to head onwards to what was going to be a P8 finishing class, albeit if it were not for his teammate Alistair Hatcher, who ended up getting beached on the apex curb of the final corner in the final lap, and he was going to give him a tap and knock him around to assist him, but the instant point standing close to the drive-through penalty limit, well, that would have practically led him to losing all the place he gained over the course of the race, and so deciding against it and instead of bringing the car home in what was the inherited P7 in class in the end. But still, talking about what lies ahead and how close it is in the Silver Championship, bar the top two of what has been at Matt Strand and also Paul Halliday, although you could argue Stephen Hobbs has crept into that theatre when we see him back on the grid in a week's time, but at the same time as well, a reflection of the fact that the silver class is the closest it's ever been for a couple of seasons. That's absolutely fantastic to see, and well, it's anybody's guess whether we could see Craig Schill, Guy Kylie out, Sean Dobie, Joe Douton or Glenn Humberstone taking P5 in the championship when it's always said and done, but I think Craig's going to be very eagerly looking to get some big results in the Brands Hatch, a circuit he enjoys, in order to turn things in his favour a week from today. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our post-round interviews with our drivers. And you've heard from two drivers today. Firstly, from Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports Gold Class driver, our overall and also Gold Class winner and pole sitter. And you've just heard from ATEC Tech Racing's Craig Schill from the sign outfit of ATEC Tech Racing in particular. P8 starter in class on the grid in qualifying, and P14 overall with that. And in the end, P12 overall finisher, P7 in the silver class. Congratulations to both of them on their performances today, and a big thank you to them both for joining me in the interview room. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up, but not without quickly reminding you, if you haven't voted for your driver of the day, don't forget to do so. And we have reposted the link in the Twitch and YouTube chats one last time. There's a Google form link available right there, and do feel free to vote there. In fact, it costs nothing, but it means a lot to our drivers when we do announce the driver of the day, and we will be announcing the driver of the day from the Nürburgring at the beginning of the qualifying in a week's time. But now it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting it to be on the grid for a future UK Sim Racing community series, or perhaps you just want to know a little bit more about the UK Sim Racing community in terms of what goes on behind the scenes, well, we firstly do recommend you check out our official website. That's uksimracing.co.uk. We talked about it earlier in today's broadcast, and we even showed it to you. And if you go to the website, you'll be able to find out all the details regarding UK Sim Racing and how you can join the community, particularly the community Discord. We'd also like to let you know that if you don't want to go to our website, or perhaps you're more of a social media person, we do have our official Twitter, which you can follow. That's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. Well, there you can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding our ongoing and upcoming series, plus the trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include, firstly, Swiller Amida Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swiller Amida Sim Racing Coach can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swiller Amida has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swiller being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PESCC, you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. We also have Demon Tweaks to provide the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the lead manufacturer of high-quality sim racing related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual race experience with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. We also have Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but are not limited to Amazon Prime, one-click shopping, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, we have SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? To put it simply, affordable quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on a competitive edge, making high quality coaching accessible to all and affordable costs tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, and they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit our website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we charge our way into what is the penultimate week of racing in this season of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup, because next week on Thursday, the 22nd of February 2024, we head back to United Kingdom for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. The county of Kent is widely referred to as the Garden of England, and you could argue that Brands Hatch is the garden of British motorsport. But as the circuit will see our drivers take on its 9 corners, one question will remain: who will be going into the season finale on the top level and the finest of form, and who will be the ones to give chase going to Australia 2 weeks from today? All that and more will be revealed next week, and join us for it in rounds 11 and 12. But until then, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.